derangement, because it's been going on for so long, makes it that much harder to let go of. It's like being in just a lousy
Hmm.
relationship.
Yeah, that's a good point. Unfortunately, it's not a healthy relationship.
Yeah,
But yeah, all right. Well, thanks, Greg. I really
you
appreciate
got
it.
it. My my
Okay.
pleasure.
All right, let's go to Kathleen and then Jim Roberts.
My name is Kathleen, and I'm a Scottaholic, and I'm really happy to be here. After listening to 3.5 hours, I have so many pages of notes. I'll try to be organized and succinct. I came to Scott. I don't remember exactly how I found him, but I did find him on Periscope, and I was drawn in, I think, from the humor, because I've always loved Dilbert, but I stayed for the persuasion. I I love NLP. I love hypnosis, and I could tell Scott was doing something that was happening on multiple levels. I mean, there was the humor level, which was wonderful, and there was the just kind of general observations level, which was insightful and interesting, and then there was something happening really, really deep, and I couldn't exactly tell what it was, but I knew it was there and I was fascinated by it. I couldn't look away. And so that's how I kind of got hooked in. And as somebody who's pursued sort of self improvement methodologies and NLP and hypnosis for years and years to overcome a really suboptimal childhood, I have found his lessons so important and so deeply impactful in my own life. And I think the heart of everything is the reframes. I came into my career, which is copywriting, public relations, professional persuasion, completely by accident. I, I had a theater degree. I was a quote artist, unquote, which is kind of hilarious. But I accidentally fell into copywriting and fundraising for arts organizations and persuasion. And I had this intense imposter syndrome over the fact I didn't have a marketing degree, I didn't have a public relations degree, and I always felt get where you want to go. What kind of difference does it make? If your path was slightly different than someone else's or wasn't kind of the approved official way to do something. And so, thank you. What you call a talent stack. And so I have a talent stack that includes teaching and public speaking and political analysis and hypnosis and NLP and psychology and event planning and, corporate ghostwriting and strategic communication and directing and stage management. And it's all a thing and it's wonderful. And I don't have to explain it or apologize to anybody for it, that I didn't get it from an Ivy League university with and go $250,000 into debt to get it. And all of that is okay. And that's phenomenal. And the fact that you have helped me more than probably 10 years of therapy and been much less expensive. I mean, the cost of a few books. And I was looking for one of my Scott Adams books to refer to something, and I realized I've given them all away.
Mm.
I, I've shared them with so many people in my life. And so if that weren't enough, the reframes, my gosh, the past 6 months with Scott has been very difficult as a dear friend of his, which is how I describe myself. He's never heard of me, but I'm a dear friend of his, and because my husband dealt with stage 4 colon cancer in the heart of the pandemic, and he had gone through several years after a terrible work injury, was already in bad shape, and then got a cancer diagnosis. So dealing with all of that completely alone, because we were abandoned by our friend groups because we had unconventional beliefs and I was a vaccine skeptic, etc. lost all of my real life friends over just differences of opinion. And dealing with my husband's cancer, all the treatments, and ultimately his passing, I I have such respect for Scott because he helped me learn how to live, and now he's helping teach so many people how to die with with immense impact and dignity and kindness. It is so kind of him to share this with all of us because he doesn't have to. It is very difficult to die of stage 4 cancer. It's painful. It can be incredibly undignified and awful. And he doesn't have to do any of this. And I learned with going through this with my husband that it was the most intimate experience I've ever had in my life. It was the most intimate experience of our marriage. And it's such a gift to demystify this for so many people who will now have a chance, if they're facing the same kind of thing, to die with dignity and die with purpose and get their affairs in order and actually face one of the most frightening and horrific and yet beautiful experiences that none of us is going to get out of alive. And that is helping so many people. Scott, you've helped me heal from losing my husband and the PTSD of dealing with all of that in a pandemic and the intense isolation. And now that I'm ready to date again, you've helped formulate the bullet points that I'm looking for. He has to have the blanket. He has to have the mug. I mean, that's a prerequisite. He has to have at least watched a year worth of your shows. Um, and just thank you, Scott. I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to thank you. I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to be a part of this community. And I've already written down a list of people I need to follow up with, like Cynthia. Oh my gosh, brain fog. I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you about that. Bev, oh my God, amazing. Just so many intensely wonderful people have been attracted to you and brought together thanks to your teaching and your sharing, and the fact that you're so generous with your intellectual property. Another author who's a dear friend of mine trains public speakers. I'm a trained public speaker to go out and share his messaging and share his content. And I mean, that's so powerful to be able to do that. And it would be wonderful if there were a way you could put so much of your stuff into, Creative Commons and will allow people to carry on with this. And I think that's very much your vibe. So I look forward to being able to incorporate so many of your micro lessons and your teaching in the stuff that I teach other people. I train other copywriters. I train, speakers. And I'm so grateful for this body of work that you've assembled. I'm so grateful for this community. And thank you, Scott. I can never express how much you mean to me. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. And I'm sorry for your loss with your husband. And it sounds like Scott has really made a difference in your life with the talent stack that you've been able to build and the success you had.
Absolutely.
Pretty
And
amazing.
if I could say one more thing, my husband was in hospice for only 2 days, and he passed. He waited for me to leave the room before he passed. And I was gathered kind of on the sidewalk outside with a few of my friends just taking a break from being in the room. And someone came out and said, he's gone. And a friend hugged me and said, I'm so sorry about this. I'm glad to be here with you on the worst day of your life. And I had listened to Scott for so long, and the reframes were embedded so deeply in me. I automatically said to my friend, the day that my husband's suffering stopped could never be the worst day of my life. And it just became automatic and has helped me heal so much. So thank you, Scott. I love you. I love you. And thank you.
All right. Thanks, Kathleen. All right, let's go to Jim Roberts and then the Golden Age.
Boy, it's tough. Kathleen, Jim Ray, I, Mr. Adams, when you first announced, I'm a newbie. I, uh, I mean, I read Dilbert for years. I didn't know who the hell you were. I just knew Dilbert. And I enjoyed it immensely. And then when I figured it out and I saw that you were on X, I start listening. I got pulled in by one of your co-hosts, for Fred Owen, SJV. When I first started listening to you, Mr. Adams, I didn't like you. I would get frustrated, and I watch everything on my my computer screen, and what I was irritated at is how you seem to fluff things off, and having gone through what you're going through with my wife, she was as courageous as you, and she taught me a lot. And I'll go back to what I started when you first announced. I thought, oh, I can't watch this. It's going to go bad, but you didn't. You held firm to your beliefs. You helped me reframe my belief in God and understand my problems that I have with religion, but still hang on to my God and my morals. And I think, Mr. Adams, you're going to be shocked to all get out when you realize you weren't in a simulation at all, and you're springboarding into something much more beautiful. And I can't wait when I come see you. I really can't, because we have a a beautiful life here, and you've taught me, because I kept listening and I kept realizing, especially Owen posted your Stephanopoulos thing with that, and I just couldn't stop laughing. I just couldn't stop laughing, and you taught me to see the perspective of what's going on, to pull yourself back and look at the perspective of things, and it really just has calmed me down these last 3 or 4 months. My whole life has changed. I've I I've been able to talk again. I got to the point where I couldn't talk at all, outwardly, overtly. I couldn't form one sentence, and you just kind of broke that up. And thanks to Owen in this space for hanging in there with me. But God bless you, Mr. Adams. I also love you.
All right. Thanks, Jim. That's very well said. And I don't think you're alone in how you feel. I think a lot of people are going through similar emotions, and I know it's a hard time. And, I think certainly one of the lessons Scott has taught us is that everything's better with humor. So, all right. Let's go to the Golden Age and then Dr. Ben.
Hey there, Owen. Aloha from Chicago. Coming up on 2 o'clock here. We've been going. This has been the marathon all-star session. What a great way to get together with our tribe of friends from locals and X and YouTube. And how do you follow the likes of Greg Gutfeld and Dr. Drew? And, we were all there when those three were hanging out at Scott's in Pleasanton. And, that was kind of an all-star session, wasn't it? Just listening to, three great individuals just sit down and have a nice, friendly, organic chat. I already posted my kind of favorite moment. Scott asked us to jump into his feed and do a reply, and I think I put in the one of my favorites during the COVID pandemic. And Owen, you know this being here in Illinois, that California, Illinois, New York, the what I call the captive states, where it was just like super Orwellian and authoritarian, and we were just getting punched down on constantly. But I'll never forget when
Mhm.
Scott said, be the elephant. That was just really powerful. And if you had kids in school at the time, and they were young kids, and just all the antics and everything else, as Dr. Drew mentioned, the kind of mass formation psychosis that everybody was caught up in. I put that one, but the other special one, just to kind of echo some of the things that people have said, how they introduced Scott to their friends and family. And I'll never forget that one day down in South Carolina, I was visiting my folks, and it was my mom's birthday. And I think we were either in the pre-show, we hadn't gone live yet, and I said, hey, Scott, today's my mom's birthday. Her name is Beth. Would you please say happy birthday? And I remember early on, when he said that he used to do those recordings back in the day, but that he started to kind of shy away from that. And I was a little reluctant to ask him, but he did it. He was super nice. And, he said, happy birthday, Beth. And everybody else was chiming in. And this was my mom, and it made her feel special. And, so now she's joined the club too. She loves Scott, and she catches him whenever she can. Down there in Florida and South Carolina. But anyway, just how do you follow up some of the things that folks like Allie and Colleen, and speaking of simulations, here comes Peter. I'm looking at Peter's profile, and I'm like, Peter Madsen, why does that name sound familiar? And then I'm like, I wonder if he's any relation to Virginia Madsen, the actress, or Michael Madsen, her brother, who was in all the Quentin Tarantino films. And then I thought, Virginia Madsen, why does that name sound familiar? And I'm like, wasn't that the name of Scott's mom? And again, you just look around, you open your eyes, and you see all these examples of just, the simulation at work, and how it all kinds years. It goes without saying how much he's helped all of us, get through COVID, get through the pandemic, the dark days of the pandemic. I still have to know, and maybe one day Drew will write about this or talk about this, but that trip to Santorini, I mean, I remember when he sent those pictures. There's pictures of him and Dr. Drew at breakfast and on the boat, and Christina, and I'd be curious to know. I don't want anyone to speak out of school, but one of these days we're going to learn about that trip and what happened. And Scott always jokes about it was hard, and he'd come on for like 15, 16, 18 minutes, and he'd just kind of get in and get out, and he'd joke about to hear Greg talk about how he was impacted by Scott. And it's just funny listening to how everybody kind of came to him, and no one really remembers exactly how it happened. I know I don't, but I just remember it. It's been about 10 years in the waning days of Periscope before they kind of turned that off. And Owen, maybe you've got some sway, and you can ask the people at X and on Spaces to re-include or reintroduce the floating hearts. So instead of us having to tap, the thumbs up in the hundreds, we can just click on the heart, and the different colors will come up from the bottom. So that's your homework. That's your
Yeah.
homework.
Not sure what I can do about that, but I'll see if there's anything I can do.
Anyway,
But yeah, it has been amazing, and I appreciate everything you're saying. I think Scott has meant a lot to all of us, and it's been a wild ride, and I hope it continues. But
yeah, we need to figure that out.
I think he's made such a huge difference in all of our lives, and a lot of other people. We haven't even really talked about all these other notable people that he's had an influence over, but I think he's had a big influence over even the Trump administration and a lot of the world events that have come out of that. I did mention that, we might not have even had Trump without his influence, but, it does seem like he's had a big made a big difference in the world, and it's maybe even hard to imagine what it would have been like without him.
Remember the time, Owen, in the early days where he said, "I don't want it to get too big." Remember when there were just 300 core people that would pile into locals, and then it was getting more popular, and that number went to 600, and then eventually millions. But thank you for what you do and putting this together. And I keep saying I hope to accidentally bump into you sometime out here in the suburbs, but we'll see how that goes. Happy New Year to everyone, and again, thanks to Scott. We love you, and we're pulling for you, and what an amazing sign of affection from everybody today. So great job.
All right, thanks. All right, let's go to Dr. Ben and then Rex.
All right, can you hear me okay?
Yes,
all right,
go ahead.
Thanks. Well, thanks for letting me talk for a second. It is like the fellow just now was saying, it is kind of humbling. Like, these other people are here. I'm just like, oh shit, I just wanted to come and say, like, how much I appreciate Scott, just what he's doing now. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I grew up like reading Dilbert comics. It was like Dilbert calendar, Far Side calendar, and what I'm saying. That was the way I was able to like interact with people that, what I mean, especially people you don't agree with. Like, what I'm saying? Like all like just that whole his whole sense of humor and like identity and like just the comics alone like put him in the level of one of the greatest cartoonists. I mean, like the way that like cartoonists classically, like you think like the old guys like Charles Addams that did the Addams Family or the Dick Tracy, you know what I'm saying? Like they were huge like cultural figures, and that's what Scott Adams is. You know what I mean? Like he is, and what did he do that with? You know what I'm saying? Like the height of it, like the entire newspaper industry turned on him, canceled him, and like he was just like, okay, what else do you have? He just kept going like that. That ruins people. Like imagine like like people have like a book contract canceled because of a controversy or something, and that's lights out. Scott Adams had the whole newspaper industry, news, television, all, what I'm saying, everyone, and he beat it. He beat that. Like, what I'm saying? Like he's a legend. That's what really what I wanted to say. I mean, I'm not a daily viewer, but I always know he's always there, and that's always been a sense of inspiration. His viewpoint, his deconstruction of how to argue and persuasion, how like all the. I'm a news junkie too, so I mean, like just seeing his views every day is just keeps you going. So, but that's all. Like I just I make comics, I draw comics, and he's been one of the inspirations for me. Like I said, like seeing how you interact with people. Like he's he's spot on. He's just a perfect judge of character. And
yeah, but and I think that's one of the reasons he does connect with so many people is that he just sort of gets. I mentioned before how he has a good sense to read the room, but I think it's like his sense of things just resonates with a lot of people. He says what other people are probably thinking or feeling, and he just sees where things are heading, and I think he just resonates with a lot of people through that. And I'm sure some of that came through with a lot of his comics, that the reason he was so popular is everyone just saw themselves in those comics. They saw their work environment in those comics, and they're like, yep, that's how it is. And I think that's a basic human need, is to be understood and to be acknowledged. And I think in a way the comics give you that. And I think his podcasts do some of the same thing, where people just feel like, yeah, this guy gets me. And
that's what's humbling. Seeing listening to all the stories of people. I mean that's people. People on the edge of leaving, people's marriages and lives, all this stuff, and they're all like thankful to the guy that drew Dilbert. You know what I mean? Like, where's Jim Davis? I want to see the people that are coming out saying this about Garfield. They're not going to be anywhere. anywhere close to the numbers for Scott Adams. Like that's, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well, I mean, yeah, but I think some of it is the nature of the medium. Like, it's kind of an indirect thing. You're not really part of your comic. I mean, you might be building yourself into one of the characters, but you're not really like, your face isn't there,
Right.
and
Well,
you're not really interacting directly with people. And so I think, frankly, Scott has probably connected a lot more with people through his podcasts
oh
and
no,
through
well that's what I
his,
mean. Is
live streams and
he's put
things.
himself out there through the podcast, through that's what I'm saying. Like the daily deconstruction of the news is just,
Hmm.
like everyone is saying. I mean, this is how they start the day. Like I mean, it's yeah. So I mean that's what I mean. Like my hats off. I just had to like say my respects for Mr. Adams. Like he's here, and like I'm just thank you. Like that's what I'm saying. Like I can relate to my mother because she
Hmm.
laughs at Dilbert comics, and I can relate to like the world and the news, and
Yeah.
because of
Yeah,
listening to the
and
podcast.
that is a bridge
You
builder
know.
too. I mean, anytime you can have something in common with people, it's a bridge builder. Like you mentioned, I think earlier in your conversation about people you don't necessarily agree with and how it's a way to connect with them. And I think that's very
Right.
true. That when you can laugh about the same thing or just share an experience with them, it's a way of breaking down those barriers and maybe having some common ground that you can build on.
Yeah. Yeah. He's
So
master. So thank you, Scott
yeah,
Adams,
all
and
right,
shout out to you, Owen, for doing Prost and all this stuff
okay,
too. So thank you.
yeah, thanks. All right, let's go to Rex and then James.
Hi, Owen. Can you hear me? Okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you for doing this. I'm relatively new to Scott Adams compared to a lot of the people here, but I still kind of wanted to share how, you know, he's sort of been a part of my simulation my entire life, weirdly. One of my earliest memories is being at my grandmother's house as a young kid and reading the funny papers and just really liking Dilbert, but not understanding why. I didn't know who Scott Adams was, obviously, but there was something in there, maybe the idea that, these important adult people, dressed like business people might actually be incompetent. There was something that like really spoke to me and that I really liked, even though I didn't really understand the humor. And then I guess flash forward. Yeah,
Sorry.
he was hospitalized for 3 weeks unconscious before he passed away. And in that time, I had a lot of spare time at the hospital, so I downloaded X and stumbled upon Scott Adams. And you know, shortly after my dad died, I realized what the little pink button at the top of X does when the Scott Adams icon shows up, and I became a regular, listener to Coffee with Scott Adams, and he became sort of my internet dad, and filled in a way that my dad was like an incredible person who was a free spirit, saw the world differently than almost anyone I'd ever met, had no embarrassment whatsoever, which embarrassed the hell out of me as a kid, but I understand it now. And Scott was able to kind of fill that gap for me, and in the time since then, he's just been an immense part of my life. And he makes me a better version of myself, and I just wanted to share that with him.
How has he made you better?
Well, I could get concrete with. So shortly after my dad passed away, the election started ramping up, and I was kind of a quiet Trump supporter, but I live in Wisconsin, and I realized, well, I had an opportunity to actually maybe make a difference. And I had never ever persuaded anybody to my way of thinking before because I didn't even understand that as an option. But Scott provided these persuasion techniques, and in particular, the tent pole hoax. And so I made it a goal, and this is before I understood systems versus goals. So I was still in that goal mindset, but I made it a goal to get 10 people who had never voted for Trump to vote for Trump in Wisconsin. And I got to 20. And it was mostly because I started with the 10 pole hoax every time, every single person that I want. And I wasn't pushy, as tempting as it was. Like before I knew Scott, it would just be like, oh, you're a libtard. And that would go nowhere, But Scott taught me how to, persuade people And in a way, what he was doing was so similar to some of the techniques my dad did his entire life. But I had nobody. My dad never verbalized it. He just kind of lived a certain way that was very Scott-like, if that makes sense. And Scott verbalized it in a way that was actionable. Um, and then, you know, beyond that, it's just the amount of things I've added to my talent stack in the last 2 years, and the way that I view challenges has, just completely changed. And I've, started new business ventures. Some of them haven't worked, some have, spectacularly well. And you know, I'm just eternally grateful to Scott, and I'm excited to keep studying Scott. I've read half of his books, but I there's still so much more to learn, and I can't wait to see what the community like that you're building, that we're all going to hopefully contribute to, ultimately becomes. And that this isn't the end for Scott, this is the beginning.
Yeah, it is. It very much is. It's going to keep going on. All right. Thanks. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Okay. Let's go to James and then Mary Kay.
Wait, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sweet. Yeah, no, I just wanted to give my 2 cents here, all the way from beautiful sunny Sydney, where it's going on 7:10 in the morning tomorrow for a lot of the people in the past, and to say thank you to Scott. You've had a big impact for the last, I can't believe I'm going to say it, 11 years or so. My interactions with Dilbert go back uni, and the Dilbert guy came up on my timeline, and he was talking about some random things to do with politics and that sort of a thing. And it was around this time that the Periscope started with you, Scott. And it was really amazing to join this budding little community in 2015 where you would talk about things, and in particular, you would make Trump accessible to someone who isn't American and doesn't necessarily understand all of the American psyche, particularly at election time. And what was fascinating was the way you would break down what he was doing and why it would work. And that sort of, for myself, led to a gateway of so many other things. And that's why I bought books of yours that have really helped my life and really helped shaped my thinking. And I just wanted to say thank you. You've had an impact on someone who found you at, I guess, 17, 18, and is now sadly no longer 17 or 18, but who hopefully will be able to take what you've had. I remarked to a friend who asked, "Why do you stay up so late to listen to Scott? Why do you, listen to him at 2 in the morning or 1 in the morning?" And I said to them, well, he's like backup Jesus. He has some way of looking at the world and being able to make things okay, even when it doesn't seem okay. And I think that now in your cancer journey, Scott, your ongoing bravery and courage to take the pain that you currently have and still be productive, I think for a lot of people is going to inspire them for a long time to come, because people sort of don't necessarily understand the point of pain, or if it's all worth something. But to see you every day just power through, it's one of the most beautiful things and human things to see. And I think it will be a great testament to the Grokkopedia entry about you for a long time to come yet. So thank you. I raise my glass to you, and all the best, Scott. We love you. I love you. And to be honest, I can't wait for you to get better. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm excited for you, James. I think as a young man, you're going to have a great future ahead of you. And I hope you do read the rest of his books. And I think it'll have a great impact on you. There's a lot of great material in there. Reframe your brain, how to fail at almost everything and win bigly. They're all really useful. I know I'm missing some of them, but they're loser think, all the rest. It's great. And I think Scott has really tried to encapsulate a lot of his knowledge into those books and done it in a very good way, communication wise and concisely, where and very accessible, like you said. So I think you're going to have a great future. And it's also just amazing to me that the impact of Scott has gone all over the world like that. You're calling from Australia or listening from Australia, and I know we've had people in New Zealand and other places that are just halfway around the world that are still listening to Scott, and people in South Africa and all sorts of things. I know Scott had reached out to his South African nephew that listens to him and gets mad at him when he curses. And it's just it's amazing to me that it is extended all over the world like that. So thank you. All right.
Owen?
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, how you doing? Sorry, my name is Dan. I don't think my little wave, hold my hand up icon is working. I've been trying to talk for about an hour. You mind if I just say a few things?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, thanks for you and Sergio and SJV for this opportunity. I appreciate it. I'll be brief. A lot of heavy hitters here. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank Scott. By the way, I go by Bajan Bear on locals, but Scott calls me Bahan Bear for some reason. But that's okay.
Okay.
I prefer that. I actually first started listening to Scott. I found him on Stefan Molyneux I guess he got interviewed, and it
Hmm.
was there was two bald guys on the screen, and they were both talking a lot of sense. And from then on, I started listening to Scott, and I just first of all, basically everything that Beverly Cross said, that was just freaking beautiful. What that was just amazing. I mean, of course, she mentioned all the kind of fun things that happened during the show, like Dale and the golf and whatnot, but she didn't mention the printer destruction or Boo walking across the screen, the Scott's cat Boo, and of
Hmm.
course the weed trimmers, that would always go off at the wrong time. Those are always fun. I think I've listened to practically every episode for the past, I don't know, 8 years or so, and I absolutely appreciate him and what he's done for me. And I just my wife as well. Basically, he's put us to sleep essentially every single night. We would listen to half a program because we would fall asleep listening to Scott's voice. That's just, it's time for bed. Okay, let's just put on Scott. We click play, and then halfway through we're asleep. Now, of course, I had to listen to the whole program anyways the next day, or this is the day before. But I wanted to really say how much I appreciate um, his insight, his rationality, his uh, ability just not to be embarrassed. I actually have a little bit of that as well, and I'm discovering the benefits and the power of that. Just
That's
don't
great.
worry about getting embarrassed or ashamed unless you're doing something really stupid. You shouldn't do something stupid or harmful. But if you know you're speaking uh, something that you have a conviction over, and you will be ready to actually um, say, hey, wait, you know what? I was wrong about that thing. As long as you're ready to do that, then you go ahead and don't worry about being embarrassed, and you just do your thing. And I just wanted to say, again, I probably already did tell you, but I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate you, Scott. And I'm just glad that you gave me this chance. I did speak to you a couple times in the Periscope days. I was trying to convince you of something, and you didn't go for it. I don't want to get into the
Hmm.
details now, but maybe we'll see. I still think there's going to be a miracle. Honestly, I really still want to see you at that big beautiful birthday. Standing there with Trump. Some crazy miracle might happen. That's what I'm praying for, and that's what I'm going to believe in. But in the meantime, I'm just going to enjoy hearing you every single day, and I'm going to keep sending my silly photographs. And I'm just grateful for all you guys. So thank you very much, and have a great day.
All right. Thank you, Daniel.
Take
And
care.
yeah, and I totally agree that Scott has been a good example in terms of stepping outside your comfort zone and being willing to
Mhm.
take risks and be embarrassed, and certainly has demonstrated the ability to do that and the strength of doing that, and
Yeah,
the kind of dispelling the fear of being embarrassed. And I think that's a very powerful thing for a lot of people, because it really limits you if you're not willing to take those risks. And
exactly.
so I think that's great. All right, thanks.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right, let's go to Mary Kay and then Mark.
Good morning, Owen, and well, good afternoon, everyone.
Hi.
I'm also feeling like I don't have that much to say either, with so many that are on here, like Greg, Dr. Drew, and all of that. But I want to thank Scott
Mary, are you there?
Yeah, I want to thank
It's
Scott
okay.
just for the reframes for just general, getting up every day and having something to look forward to. Times of feeling so dependent on that. Times of waking up exactly at 7 or 8 till 9. I've been over 2 years in care with my mom, who's 95 now. And I've just had a hard time with what Scott's prognosis has been. Because a year into care with my mom, the strength and the words and the feeling we can all get of that life is just going to last forever. Scott and all of you just, embody that feel when we log on, when we click for me, it's my email button that says that the pre-show is on if I've gotten in for that, or that it's just before the sip. And those collective feels we all have of going to the coffee pot or going to our Keurig or Nespresso, talking about coffee ad nauseum, talking about a French pot, a French press, and just the joke and the camaraderie has made it so personal. For the feel of just being with Scott, what he created with all of us. I think I started off listening in 2021, and I remember it was right after Rush, in one of his last podcasts, who I hadn't listened to for a long time, mentioned Scott. And I was sort of listening to things I was on Twitter too much and probably could have been psyoped into some J6 thing. I remember being asked in a DM by someone, and so I just was kind of addicted to just some stuff on X that wasn't the best. And so Scott's perspective at first, I didn't like hearing that, Trump didn't win. And I always say the worst thing that anything QAnon made me do was go fill up my gas tank on a Sunday night. But, Scott, just in listening to him, I probably started off with obnoxious jokes about, from the Saturday Night Live skit couple, Todd and I forget her name, but Gilda Radner's character. And I guess that was just my way of trying to get in the room of conversation with everyone. I'm the youngest of 8. I always had to sit and entertain people who were waiting for my brothers or sisters' dates. I don't know what I'm going to best remember, or there's no caveat like that here. I know that going for a walk and standing under a tree is something that I absolutely do, just to feel smaller, and that all that we have to offer each other and what we've learned from Scott is so much bigger than what we know. So just a collective, just a personal thank you, actually, Scott, to you. And on a humorous note, the Dilberito Law, I don't know if it's in your book. I still do need to finish reading Reframe Your Brain. But when I look at items in a grocery store, I sometimes go the shelf below the main product of the product I want, so that I can give that Dilberito pitch a better chance of being the Dilberito that's in the best spot at any grocery store. So
Nice.
thanks for that. And I love you, Scott. And you guys are all awesome. And I'm just glad to listen. It's just been really terrific to listen to everybody on the same day that I'm waiting for my Dilbert calendar to arrive.
Awesome. Thanks, Mary Kay. Yeah, and I always eat my Soylent Green and use my French press before I go swimming in the Matrix.
We got an espresso, so it's that loud sound. Anyway, French, yeah, just like swimming is the best exercise. Okay, take care, everyone.
All right. Thanks.
I'm listening. Yep.
Okay, let's go to Mark and then that Gen X dad.
Great being on here. I'll be brief. I haven't been a Scott listener for that long, but I do know that for more than a decade before, I had the little pointy haired boss, squishy character sitting on my cubicle shelf. He's the only thing on my cubicle shelf, and truly reading Dilbert cartoons during that time. I'm an engineer. I worked for the government. You can't hardly get into a much more of a cubicle hell than that.
Hmm.
I did my 30 years barely. The month was of my 30-year anniversary. I was able to retire, which is the absolute soonest you can and get your benefits. So I did that. Never considered the possibility of retiring. Uh, my goal. I wanted to go do my dream job, which I'm doing now. But anyway, I was trained a lot to help people facilitate improvement projects, and I've taught thousands, coached thousands, and given them the advice that I learned from Scott about not being afraid to embarrass yourself. I teach leadership classes today in healthcare. I also help solve problems in healthcare. And I've shared Scott's books with all of the people I'm coaching and mentoring as I go about my work, uh, which is dozens of people. And I get to be in emergency departments with doctors and nurses on a regular basis. I get to go to ORs and observe. I get to hang out with people who are trying to make patient care better, which makes me feel like I'm a little bit connected to the stuff that Scott's been going through recently, and I really love that. I love the potato thing that Greg talked about. I'm going to use that. I think that sums it up so well. I believe humility is one of the greatest leadership traits that is very underappreciated, and I'm very pleased and thankful that I get to work with a leader, our CEO, for my healthcare organization. I've been teaching systems over goals for more than a decade. Uh, I never really discounted the need for goals, like Scott kind of helped me reframe too, but I absolutely see it because it can take your mind off the systems approach. And I look forward, this is the last thing I'll say, I look forward to the biographer finishing his book and then selling it for millions of dollars to go to Scott's estate to be able to be turned into a movie. I don't know who would play Scott, but I think there are several people on here who love Scott who probably could be in that movie and could make it a meaningful experience for millions more, because that's the whole point. Scott's life, if it has a message, it is that he has touched millions, and those millions will touch millions more. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. And I'm glad he's been so useful to you. All right. Let's go to that Gen X dad and then Chuck. That Gen X dad, you're on mute. All right. We'll come back to you. Let's go to Chuck and then James. Looks like that Gen X dad
Can you
came off mute.
can you
Yeah, go
hear
ahead.
me, Owen?
Yeah. Let's go to that Gen X dad and then Chuck.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
go ahead.
Sorry about that. One of the things that's been amazing to me is just how blessed we've been with. I don't know if it was inspiration or just it happened, whether it was randomness, but how Scott has been slowly preparing us for what's coming. The announcement was back on May 19th. Even Charlie Kirk posted sort of impressed with Trump's response to that announcement at the end of May. Dr. Drew and Greg's end of September visit, everybody who's of my age knows what that means when, like, oh boy, if they're visiting at home, this isn't good. Cerno's post, just the mug the other night, I was like, oh, signal. If you guys did not listen to Stefan Molyneux's spaces last night, he opened with like 20 beautiful minutes. Scott, I hope you get time to listen to it later. With his summary of how important Scott will go down in the way that people think not just about the practical application of pragmatic ways to look at the world, but also the nobility and the humility in which he has shared with the world the noble exit from the stage. Now, the subtle signaling, whether it was a conversation that Scott privately had with Cerno that led Cerno to post it, I don't know. Doesn't matter. But Cerno's post a couple days ago, it's like we've got some of the most amazing minds sharing with the world right now how important this guy has been. And yes, we all call him our internet dad. I lost my dad 22 years ago, and I was really young. My kids were really young, so I didn't really process it. I'm processing this much differently, and really, the grief of it, because it's like, oh, this is really a lot of my friends or their dads are dying now. I'm 58 in 2 weeks, and their parents in their 80s are passing away. But I didn't get, and I imagine for most of us on this, we didn't really get an opportunity to have a lot of lead up before a parent goes away, to be able to say the things. And that's what Steph said last night. Say the things, let someone know how much they meant. So Scott, just without saying, dude, you're probably the most useful person of the 21st century. Okay. Tie with Elon, because that's what you're in your head right now, putting Elon first. But between you and Elon, I don't know if we get Elon to do what he did if Scott hadn't started the ball rolling with his persuasion in 2015. Okay, so moving forward, we're all going to have to do this. Just like when my dad passed away, I had to move on. The key is, how do we take these lessons? How do we take the amazing Akira the Don projects and whatever this academy is that you guys talked about? I can't believe we're 4.5 hours into this, but all these little projects that are in the works of everyone trying to figure out, we're going to wake up, maybe it's February, maybe it's July, whenever it's going to be, and it's going to be different, because it's not going to be Scott saying, get in here. Scott, I did morning radio for the better part of 30 years. Your ability to do what every program director told me in the late 80s and early 90s, Brian, it's one person listening at a time. Talk to them as one person. You're little, get in here. Come on, it's going to be fun today. Hey, it's going to be a great day. Like you personalized it so well. So how do we transmit the brilliance to the next generation? Now, my daughters don't necessarily listen to me. Most dads, their kids don't listen to them. So I think it's going to be incumbent upon us to crowdsource, also not duplicate the same. We don't want to plow the same ground. We want to be as efficient as possible. But if there's any projects with my radio background and my executive producing and programming stuff at Westwood One that I can help with in terms of creating Scott Adams content that will live and be useful in the real world in 2027 and 2037 and 2047, I am raising my hand and say, whoever's starting to work on this stuff, reach out. MTV just ended. It definitely influenced my generation. Scott, I would love to see a combination of maybe the Jay Plemons clips. Mr. Cohen's done some amazing clips as well, mixed in with some Akira the Don songs, and maybe live people, whether it's Owen one day, maybe it's Dr. Drew one day, maybe it's Greg, maybe it's Beverly, somebody doing little shifts where we're putting together a 24/7 broadcast, and maybe Elon puts it in every Tesla in the future, where you don't have XM to worry about or FM. You're getting the Scott Adams channel or the Useful Systems channel or Scott's Debris, whatever it ends up being called, so that people can hear in his voice and in the voices of people who are inspired by him, this is the way to diagnose the world we live in. This is the way to look at reality in a way that can help you out of your problems. So many of you have so heartfully shared your struggles. I have them too. There's so many more people who just dismiss Scott. And I know that this is going to be something that's going to be up to us. Just like, imagine if you were listening in the 1940s in London, and you got to hear C.S. Lewis give his things that became the Screw Tape Letters. That's how I feel like we are in this era. As Akira said, how lucky it is that he got to live at the same time as Scott. Well, it's now on us. to start doing the work. Everyone's at a different stage of the grief and the loss with this. We're all saying thank you, Scott, for being the most useful person of our generation. But it's not time for us to raise our hand, pick up, maybe not the pen. It's whatever tool we have to get these tools to help people go through life with systems over goals, with a potato ego instead of a Picasso ego, and just make the world better for. It's the ripple's going to get there. It's just like people will look at the success rate. Scott's credibility is based on his ability to predict what was going to happen correctly. That's all people want. Implementing this stuff that he's taught us and somehow collating it or curating it into something that is going to be fun, humorous, useful, but available all the time so the community doesn't fall apart. If there's anything I can do to help with that, would love to. Scott, we love you. Sooner said no, we love you. See you on the other side, brother.
All right. Thank you. I can see that you're an avid student of Scott. I noticed the technique that you used about saying, "Hey, in your head, you're putting Elon first." That's right out of Scott's playbook. And even just calling him the most useful of the 21st century, that's thinking past the sale. So I can see you're picking up his lessons. So I appreciate that. And I do think that that's probably the best way to carry his legacy forward, is just to practice it, just to show it, just to set the example. And you mentioned that your daughter doesn't listen to you. I can guarantee that she imitates you, or she will. Um, that's one of my favorite quotes. I think Maya Angelou might have said it, where it's like, or I might have it wrong. Actually, it's someone else, but the quote is like, "Kids have never been very good at listening to their parents, but they've never failed to imitate them." And I think that's very true. And I'm thinking it's somebody Baldwin that said that. But anyway,
Thanks, Owen.
yeah, but I mean, I think, to me, the best way to carry this forward is just to behave like Scott, to demonstrate his lessons in real life. Just use what he taught us. And I think that's how other people will learn best, is not by hearing it, but by seeing it, by watching it. And in the past, before I had Scott as a persuasion mentor, that's how I picked up persuasion. It wasn't by someone sitting down and teaching it to me. It was watching them work, watching them do it, and learning from that example. And so I think that's the best thing we can do, is to take the lessons we've learned and to be good examples for people. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Let's go to Chuck and then James.
Hello, Owen. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Now, is everybody ready for a simultaneous rip? Nah, y'all
Go
are
for
on
it.
your own, okay? Now,
Mhm.
just to let you know, my PSA, you got to bear with me because I'm a mess with MS, as some of you know. This month is 3 years of no alcohol. I stopped drinking in the past for 2 years, for 3 years, and 5 years, respectively, previously. But the previous times I quit drinking, the actual quit date was the goal. And once that goal was achieved, it no longer motivated. But alcohol is poison is the system, and systems over goals. So I thank you, Scott, for that big time, because it's not even close. I left 55 pounds in that bottle. So 3 years went pretty fast. Now, long before Scott whacked a Trump beehive in 2016, I read about how to fail at almost everything in November of 2013 by Dale Lanzig in the Green Sheet. That's the payment rag. And I'm sure a lot of you thought of a different Dale when I said that. Now,
Mhm.
you can actually see the article that motivated me to get all involved in how to fail. Hang on one second. you can see. Hang on. You can. Thanks for being hanging with me for a second. Now, you can see the actual article on my X feed, where you can also see why I say every day. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but every day I write "good health to you, Scott," every day, uh, and that comes from one of our fellow locals' beloved songs. Believe it or not. It's a song by the name Stairway to the Stars. And one of our locals plays pretty good guitar on it. So you can all check that out on my X. Plus, Good Health to You, Scott, conforms to Scott's new 5-word post rule during, during the pre show. Okay. Now, 4 months later, in February of 2014, Dale wrote a follow up article that where she mentioned how to fail again, Scott. But I was also mentioning that article, and that link is also in my X as well at Geo Payments. Now, Scott, that's a nice little timestamp. And again, thank you, Scott. Now to the man cave. I am claiming the title of the most simultaneous rips in history. Now, y'all can argue, but your mics are off right now. Now, while simultaneous ripping, it's been an honor to be part of our man cave where we all watch Reframe Your Brain germinate in real time. I mean, he had the whiteboard up there. He wrote all the things, and we were all part of it. it. And it happened in the man cave, but on a larger scale, it happens with Coffee with Scott Adams. And basically, what is going on is the ultimate mastermind alliance is going on involved with Scott, and we're never going to get that back. Now, I want to thank Scott also for not blocking me ever, because I know I deserved it a couple of times. You know, Scott, I'm supposed to go first, but I'll see you on the other side.
All right, Chuck. Thank you. And I'm glad Scott has helped you. You mentioned that you gave up alcohol and lost a bunch of weight. I think that's a common thing in Scott's audience, that people have said they've lost a ton of weight and they've given up alcohol and they've gotten much better health. And I'm sure Scott has saved a lot of lives, maybe including yours with that. So I know he's made a huge difference for a lot of people. So thanks for adding that. All right, let's go to James and then Mid Atlantic.
Scott, this is a thank you letter, tying in the history of events as I saw them over the many decades we shared. In the 1980s, before the internet came out, or even cable TV came out, blue collar areas were in a bubble. Truckers, waitresses, factory workers, blue collar areas of America assumed the government and corporations were all for us. It felt good to believe we're all in it together. The illusion of togetherness wasn't real. Still, it was a fuzzy, feel good feeling. Dilbert came out in the beginning of the 90s. Your Dilbert comic shattered our illusions in a good way. We started to consider that maybe corporations and governments do not always do good things for the common man. Instead, they do things that are good for them and give us a fancy lie why it's good for why it's good for us. Dilbert taught us a new way to think about the world. Our fuzzy feel-good illusions gone, but the great Dilbert comics could fill the void. Like Greg said, Dilbert, Farside, and I'd say Matt Groening comics were the big three. Scott, when you came on the scene of the podcast recently, in the last 10 years or so, you once again shattered illusions that authorities had our best interest at hand. Once again, Scott taught us how to think about thinking. Remember 2020 when you weren't allowed to question the experts or data? Scott jokes properly. Why trust an expert? All data is fake. These lock-stepping authoritarians Scott fought can't even take jokes. They have a bad sense of humor. The globalist authoritarians think they're smart because they have so much money, but they try to cancel the very person who spent his entire life mocking them. Yeah, that wasn't a good play by the globalists. Conspiracy thinking, dangerous thought crime went away when you explained it's right to speculate. Scott reasons how one thing will lead to another. He admits he's right a lot, sometimes wrong. Who cares? It's good to have a reason on what's going on. Frame the situation and even draw in the picture some. So when the image starts forming, you can piece it together with more information. Current events start to make sense when you already have an idea where the pieces might fit. The globalists don't want you seeing the picture. The globalists don't want you finding out their crimes. Scott, you diffused the hysteria that thinking for yourself was a crime. Scott, you diffused this dystopias we're floating with now. 1984, Fahrenheit 451 of library book cycling, even Soylent Green of human trafficking, and the brave new world of forced culture change as an act of war. And, you could broadly even say idiocracy as they're trying to dumb us down. We're fighting this. We're still fighting this. But you're the biggest diffuser against thought crime conspiracy accusers. Scott, you fought for the truth. Jesus won for truth on the cross 2,000 years ago. Don't be surprised when you meet God. You'll be in the company of some really legendary heroes of love and truth. Imagine a goofy comic maker leading to being close personal friends with God Almighty. That's coming to pass pretty soon, I believe. Nice. Glad to know you, brother. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, James. Well said. Okay, let's go to Mid-Atlantic and then Arch.
Hey, Owen, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting one moment. This is Dane. It looks like I might have been called upon when I was away from my phone, as expected. So when you have the opportunity, I'd love to have a moment to speak.
You're third on my list, Dane.
Thank you.
All right, Mid-Atlantic and then Arch.
Yeah, very touching comments so far, and I'm feeling inspired, with a lot of them. But thank you very much, Scott, for everything that you've contributed. There's been a lot of conversation about from this local community and the podcasting world that you've created. And I think you set an example about how it should be done right, because I've been in a lot of online communities, but I've never seen someone just put together just an awesome assembly, of making people feel engaged, individually loved, beloved. All your persuasion techniques definitely worked to make us come together and feel bonded, and not just better through the reframes and the lessons and the interface for reality and all the other numerous contributions you've made. So just that's another dimension of your tremendous contributions here. And that was one of my favorites was locals with the man cave. Like during the pandemic, I just thought it was amazing how you opened up yourself and your the garage as not as world-class cartoonist and best-selling author, but as kind of dude down the street hanging out. That was just so much fun. They were the best times. They helped through a terrible time through humanity, and it was tremendously awesome for you to make yourself available that way. I'm a Gen X or two, and I came along during the 90s when Dilbert, when you first brought Dilbert into the IT workforce, and that's probably actually one of the most things I'm most grateful for. I know there's been, people, it was a funny cartoon, but I think you helped set the culture of the 90s because, with this exciting new technology, a lot of us young guys, we're 20, just out of college, and, we had the world was our oyster. We could do whatever we want, but when we got into jobs, it was still like stuffy, people wearing suits and ties type of world and cube farmland and, very locked down office environments. The creation of the pointy hair boss and I think really the bravado that you brought into Dilbert of questioning authorities and mocking them and belittle them really helped shape that whole .com era. Like the whole culture was shifted. I'm not sure if you're part of Artifact with it too, or symbiotic, with the change, but that just benefited humanity on an untold scale because it kind of freed our minds. We all had fun in the office. Even back then, the faxes were still a thing. To have people from other offices that fax over Dilbert comments. They print it off and then fax it, or we go online directly and see it. But also just every day we come into the office and see a new comic, and then it's like mocking certifications when they came around. With the Microsoft developer that was a big thing in my office. They're like, oh, I'm getting certified. And then I start reading, the Dilbert, one of the themes was when you were belittling that whole stuff. And I was like, you clowned the whole idea, which was correct, because a lot of those guys would come out and have a certification, but just didn't know anything that they're talking about. So I think that helped establish that the entrepreneurial spirit, was going on at that time. And that, that vibe lived with me forever, and I'm forever grateful for it. And then, moving forward too, also, Greg's on here. I didn't know that you were podcasting until Greg mentioned on one of his shows. I think it might have been Red Eye, but he was talking about Scott Adams' Periscope. I was like, what's that? And then, so that's how I got plugged into the more recent community. And like I said, tremendously grateful for how you developed that into probably the best version of an online community that it can be. So thank you very much. And I'm still a believer in the third act, and hoping for things to work out. Thank you.
Thanks. Well said. Yeah, I mean, I think, to me, as I said, humor is very powerful. It's a healing force, but also it's a persuasive force. And I think, mocking is something that Scott has made a point many times, is saying it's a really powerful persuasive technique. People don't like to be mocked. And it's a kind of almost like a high ground maneuver if you can take the position of mocking somebody in a good way, in terms of like, you're correct, they should be mocked, and it puts them in a frame of being kind of embarrassed and not wanting to look that way, and so it can change a lot of behavior. So I think that's something that certainly happened through Dilbert, but also through the different examples Scott has used over the years of where mocking ridiculous
What?
things makes a lot of things happen.
Oh yeah, one more thing in there. Sorry, if you look at it like I think the early Dilbert cartoons, historians in the future might look at that as really the first Mimi, because that was just like such an information dense delivery mechanism to perform the persuasion and the mocking. Like they get belittled today because like, oh, it's a cartoon with some text or whatever. Like, but you're really setting a very, very powerful mindset just with that imagery and the text all together. And I look at Scott's, as Dilbert as kind of like the early version of that. So anyway, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, thanks. All right, let's go to Arch and then Michael.
Thanks, Owen. Hi, everybody. Good morning from San Diego. I just want to express the joy I've had for the past 10 years, a decade. I don't know the exact date I started being a member of the group, but it's been over a decade that I've been doing this. My wife often hears in the morning the Scott Adams, the coffee with Scott Adams. She calls Scott my harbu, which is a Farsi word for the second wife who displaces the first wife's role in the marriage, which is kind of funny. I'm a little bit older than Scott, so I think, Scott, you're more of my brother than my harbu. But thanks for the 10 years. Somebody said the word tenacity in describing Scott, and 7 days a week for 10 years, even on your way to radiation treatments from the ambulance. It's been mentioned the nightly broadcast you did during COVID. I tried to attend a lot of those, although it's hard to do that through work. But I appreciate all the companionship that this entire group that Scott you've put together has provided me in the mornings, in the evenings. Continued now this past couple of years. I just want to say a very heartfelt thank you, Scott. It's been great listening to you all this time. I hope. I don't know if you remember, but it was the importance of your group to me was driven home. Christmas Eve of 24, when you threatened to ban me because of a misspoken word or a misunderstanding. It was a very difficult day for me. I'm so glad you didn't ban me. Probably would have, and this is just a joke, probably would have killed myself. But it's this mornings with Scott has just been a real pleasure. Learned a lot. I wish I could have internalized more of the lessons that you provided, Scott. I'm just a little too thick to have taken all that home and absorbed it all and turned it into a life-changing event. So I was short on every shot in golf yesterday. I'm going to keep it short again today. Love you all. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
All right. Thanks, Arch. Appreciate it. Okay, let's go to Michael and then Dean.
Yes, thank you so much for doing this. So yeah, I'm a Gen Xer too, Gen X dad of two college age girls, and I just want to give gratitude here today. I just really want to give gratitude to Scott for everything he's done for me and my family. Um, discovered Scott in my late 40s. It was during COVID, and I learned from Scott right away that our opinions are assigned to us by our news sources. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't trust any news sources back then. I was looking for a news source, to be honest. And for the last 6 years, I've had a trusted news source in Scott. This morning I didn't know what to think of Venezuela. What did I do? I said, I got to go see what Scott thinks. And honestly, I'm scared about how I'm going to get my news going forward. But, somehow I think this group here is going to help with that. I think we'll find that news source. Um, I really learned from Scott. I guess the biggest things I learned from his books is, the most important things in life are your career, family, and your health. And during COVID, it was a real wake up call for me. I realized I was really putting career way ahead of everything else. Family relationship was good, but my health was deteriorating. And there's a family history of health going bad in 50s and 60s. So I decided, again, using Scott's thing, I didn't want to. I decided I'm going to prioritize health first, family second, and career is going to be not as important right then. So basically worked my way to retirement. Was living in Pleasanton actually for 25 years. I met you, Scott, one time outside of Nani's. You were on a date. I came up and bugged you, said hi. Sorry about that, but glad I did. But what I really learned then was, you got to change your environment sometimes. And this California wasn't right for me anymore, especially Northern California. And moved the family to Eagle, Idaho. Been able to lower my stress. I've set up systems to exercise, systems for health. I've lost 30 pounds. Been able to expose my family to new things here, and I really have a true vision and a plan, for my future. No, I'm no longer worried about, oh, my dad died in his 60s, my grandfather died in his 50s. I have a vision for how I'm going to stay healthy for, 30 years. And th- s- just Scott, you helped me see all this, so thank you.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like Scott has really helped you a lot and you're on a good track. So I'm glad to hear that. And I think you'll be able to find your news. You can certainly still follow me. I post every day, and Scott usually reads my feed every day. So that'll still be there for you, and you can get your news that way. But we'll see how things turn out. It'll be all right. So,
All right, thank you guys.
all right. Thanks, Michael. All right. Let's go to Dane and then Warren.
Hey, thanks very
Dane,
much.
go ahead.
Thanks very much, Owen. I
Yeah.
appreciate this very, very much. So I posted somewhere a couple of days ago, I guess, that my appreciation for Scott and his timing was perfect. Dilbert started as I was in my final years of college. I'm in Atlanta. Went to the North Avenue Trade School. Started out in engineering and figured out the math was like, this is stupid, and ended up with a management degree. And I was also lucky enough soon afterwards to get hired on at a local major airline here in Atlanta, and got questioned a couple of times by some of the Dilbert cartoons I would post in my cubicle. But I was proud to be able to introduce a lot of people to Dilbert that didn't know who Dilbert was. And at that point it was like, who the hell is Scott Adams? But over the years, having gotten to know Scott and hoping that he's still awake and listening, you've informed and reinforced my life as a rebel, I guess is the best or nicest term to call it. I've done a lot of consulting work, and luckily have been able to fire many clients that were just beyond help, in large part due to your influence. And over the past, geez, I don't even know how many years I've drank many gallons of coffee in that simultaneous sip. Finally broke down way too late to order my simultaneous sip cup. And my prayer at this point is that I receive it in time to share at least one, two, or three with you while you're still here among us. Your bravery and your openness, with your diagnosis and what you're going through is inspirational. I hate that you're going through all this, but I so appreciate how much you've been open about it and shared about it. I love you very much. Never had the opportunity to meet you here. Might not, and will hope to meet you in the great beyond. And with you saying, that you wanted to kind of hear folks' reaction or feedback or whatever before you might leave us. I hope that you're finding great joy in that. I hope I've added some amount. I'm still, I think I mentioned in the post that I had done earlier, very proud that you and I at one point had interacted some on X, and you've liked at least one of my posts somewhere along. So I don't know if anybody here has said or mentioned, but I actually wrote a letter, not a tweet or anything, but wrote a letter, threw it in the mail up to the White House to nominate you for consideration for a Congressional Medal of Honor. You are just a tremendous patriot and inspiration to me, and I think obviously to the majority of the folks that are here. And I would so love, even more than getting that cup and having a sip with you, would absolutely love seeing the Big Don going out to Pleasanton and joining you one day to present you with that medal. There's been many that have been granted or whatever after someone's departure from this world, and I would so love to see you get that before you do. And if you don't, you'll get it at some point. I know in my heart, because you have been an inspiration, a patriot, both business-wise and U.S.-wise, and I just don't know what. You've been a tremendous inspiration in my life. I've learned so much from you. Regardless, Scott, thank you. I again, I appreciate you sharing your status and diagnosis and so forth. It's kind of like a goodbye. I hope it's not. Some miracle might occur, but I absolutely look forward to meeting you here or in the beyond at some point, because you've been a tremendous influence on my life since basically since Dilbert started. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Hugs, kisses, etc. Thank you very much. Thanks, Owen.
All right. Thanks, Dean. All right, let's go to Warren and then the Fiery Patriot.
Well, I appreciate you giving me a mic. I guess I want to just say thanks for the guidance and the humor over the years. If anything, I think Scott through Dilbert taught me that most of what's going on in corporate America, the bureaucracies, whatever, has to do with incompetence more than with nefarious intent. And I was a fan of Dilbert when it first started coming out, and it showed up in syndication. And I've, nowadays with newspapers being fairly rare unless you ask for them, the only exposure I've had to Scott here recently was, quite honestly, after Rush died. I became aware that he was doing his podcast and such, and I would pay attention to that every now and again. And then whatever I saw as far as Dilbert being reposted on X or some other social media platform. But I've always admired Scott. He was a guy that could find a way to put humor on what a lot of us were frustrated about, and beyond frustration, actually, which was actually really, really cool in the way he did it. He and I actually share a lot of things, and it's sort of funny. He is a hypnotist. He actually started studying hypnotism way earlier than I did. I didn't start studying hypnotism until I was off in my 50s, I guess. And I started studying it because of leadership. And yes, I saw it as a superpower, and that's the reason why I started looking at it. I was looking at it for leadership, a way to combat the incompetence kind of thing. A couple other things we share in common. I actually have prostate cancer as well. I don't even really know where I stand with that right now. Sort of put that on the back burner, even though I know I shouldn't. But it was because I was taking care of my wife and being her caregiver and doing what I could to get her through her own health problems. But, it's, how do I put it? It's a loss. I mean, it's as much of a loss as it was when Rush Limbaugh passed. He's a guy that I've admired, and while we studied hypnotism for different reasons, he got into it when he was a kid. I got into it as an adult. But it makes you look at things differently. It makes you look at things as reality is plastic, and it can be reshaped, and the intent of people and the way we perceive reality is individualistic to a point, and then it becomes a group thing. And Scott was really good at pointing that out, especially in his podcasts that I've been able to catch. And I regret that I haven't been able to catch all of them. I just don't have the time with looking after my wife and whatnot. But anyways, again, thank you so much. I wish I had the talent that you do as far as an artist to be able to do a Dilbert strip or something along those lines. I don't. Um, uh, you know, I've sold stuff, but no, I'm not. I'm not as good. I'm not as funny. I only wished I could become as famous as you, but it ain't gonna happen. But anyways, Scott, just wanted to say thank you, bud. It's been an honor, and I'm glad you existed, and you have an admirer, and I don't know what else to say other than that. And thank you, XSSJ, for liking some of my stuff that you did. Okay. But anyways, I
All right.
appreciate y'all giving me the mic, and y'all have a great day.
Okay. Thanks, Warren. Yeah. I mean, I would say a couple things in response. One is I wouldn't attribute anything to malice that could be explained with incompetence. I think Scott might agree with that. So when you say everything has nefarious intent, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that all the time. And so
Well, no, I'm saying that there is nefarious intent at points, but as far as it goes, not everything. Every time you get into an argument with whether it be a business associate or bureaucracy of whatever, it's
Mhm.
not always nefarious intent. There's a, and this, trust me on this one, is because I worked with airports and air bases and highways and DOTs and all of that.
Mhm.
You get a lot of disagreements. Trust me on this one, you do.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's not. It's generally not because of nefarious intent. They're not trying to screw over a contractor. They're not trying to do you harm. They're trying to protect their own ass.
Mhm.
Okay, ass. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said it. But then also, generally, it has to do with their own incompetence, that they just haven't read their own dang documents. They don't understand them, and it's incompetence. And
Yeah. Okay.
I would
Sounds
go
like
with,
we agree.
yeah, I would go with 60, 70, 80% of the damn time that they don't mean to do you harm. It's just that they don't know any damn better, and they're lazy enough that they're not going to read their own stuff
Mhm.
to see
Yeah.
what they're
Okay.
supposed to do. But
All
anyway,
right. Thanks. Okay.
all right. Well,
Sounds
anyway,
good.
y'all
All
take
right.
care. Thank you, man.
All right. You
Bye.
too. Thanks. Bye. All right. Let's go to the Fiery Patriot and then Richard.
Well, thank you, Owen, and I'm very grateful to be able to express my gratitude to Scott. It's been amazing hearing everyone. So I would say there's two major ways that Scott changed my life personally. And first, that was politically. And then second, it was really my entire understanding of reality and my entire sort of point of view on life. I first heard of Scott about 10 years ago when I was in my early 20s. And at the time, my entire media diet was, Rachel Maddow and Sam Harris and all of this. And so it really had that perspective on life and didn't know any different. I was still in college at the time. And I had heard of Dilbert, but had not heard of Scott Adams. And I was a total Bernie bro, went to all the Bernie events and all that. And so when I finally saw Scott for the first time, something that I thought was funny and have always thought about since is at the time he was often saying that he was to the left of Bernie and that he shared Bernie's values but understood economics. And so that really drew me in and allowed me to listen to Scott and to listen to a new perspective that I didn't have before. And from there, two movies on one screen, really understanding that. And also Scott's persistence that we were entering the golden age. Saw a lot of my friends suffering not in reality but in their own minds, and for Scott to be able to encourage me in college and after to really be able to enjoy that time under Trump's first term, and through that process as well the hoaxes, of course. So through that entire process, I kind of understood reality in a new way. And, you know, that my peers were not necessarily getting the best information, or they were getting different information from me. And so that led to point two, which was really changing and evolving my entire understanding of reality. Obviously, of course, when COVID hit, I so appreciated his time doing 2 shows a day, the blanket, which I now have, and all that. And which, you know, the night shows eventually becoming the man cave. But during that time, the user interface for reality, I grew up with a parent who suffered from cancer for decades, or well over a decade. And they really taught me a lot of sort of similar things as what Scott taught in terms of affirmations and mindset, and how that could really prolong life and improve life and change results that you see in life. And so when Scott presented the, you know, user face for reality, it totally changed my point of view during a horrible time for all of us, of course. And that was a huge comfort during 2020. And it was really taught me that anything is possible. Anything can happen. We have the ability to author our simulation. And sort of to wrap up here, you know, I have a somewhat unique career track. I'm on the road a lot. I travel a lot. And Scott has always been with me every day through that. And so being able to have a mentor and a role model of what being a man is, in a way that I had never had before, has changed my life incredibly and forever. And every day I notice the tools that Scott has given us, the way I communicate to maximize persuasion, the boldness of my decision making in my career, especially early on. His, you know, how to get a raise is hilarious and so helpful. Um, and insights that I wouldn't have had otherwise, from small things like the top of your car is not temporary storage. I think about that almost every day because I'm almost always tempted to do that. To his perspective that he shared on economics and geopolitics and even events like today, as someone else mentioned. So I realized the immense and lasting impact of Scott Adams and his life on all of us, and me in particular, every single day. And so I thank him for teaching us that anything can happen, anything is possible, and that we are the author of the simulation.
All right. Thanks. Yeah. I mean, it's clear you've been paying attention, and that's a good thing. And I do think Scott has been a model man for a lot of people, just in terms of what a good man looks like and how to behave, how to act, how to think, how to speak. And so it sounds like you picked up on a lot of that. So thank you. All right, let's go to Richard and then Andy.
Hi, Owen. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity. I know there's a lot of people who still want to speak, so I'll try and keep it brief, and there'll be a fair amount of repetition. I noticed that when Scott was speaking today, he said that most of the conversation would probably center around Venezuela, and I think no one has spoken about Venezuela, so it shows what's actually on people's minds, which is it's great that it's been such a wonderful tribute for Scott.
Mm-hmm.
And so just in terms of my background, and when I first became aware of, you know, the Dilbert universe, I think that's from a very young age, around the same time as Gary Larson, The Far Side. I think Scott was always, Dilbert was always, you know, running kind of in parallel to The Far Side. Mm-hmm. For context, I'm in South Africa, so it's been here all my life, so still out here. And so I think what really struck me about, well, I'm trying to focus my thoughts here. I think initially I was also in the same boat. I was very much on the left. I think, you know, with YouTube going global, and I was an early adopter on YouTube, and this is a time where no one was online really. But because I was working at a power station, I had access to you know, high-speed internet and everything. And I mean, everything was like Stephen Colbert, CNN, MSNBC, Jon Stewart, John Oliver, Rachel Maddow, you know, the whole swath. Mm-hmm. And but it was actually interesting. Now I'm thinking about it. There was also this Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, and then Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, the Weinsteins. But that was around the time of, where there was a lot of that, what they called the intellectual dark web.
Yeah.
And what I found at that time, that was kind of like the time when Scott really entered my world again, because I remember that whole intellectual dark web. There was, especially with the Weinstein brothers, and then there was Sam Harris, and there was some sort of a falling out and debates between Jordan Peterson, and there was just this kind of confusion because, like, firstly, there's everything happening on the left, and then these independent guys who are all kind of fighting amongst themselves. And I remember a time just thinking, I'm just like completely confused about everything. I don't know which way is up,
Didn't know
And
which
then
opinion to be
somehow,
assigned.
yeah, it was just a complete confusion. And then Trump enters the scene, and it's like, who is this crazy man? And I remember then just stumbling on one of these periscopes, and I thought, I don't know, it's Scott Adams, like this is the Dilbert guy, and just this kind of clear thinking, just because everything else was just sort of debate and a lot of conflict and opinion, and I just thought, no, this sounds pretty good. And from then on, I just more and more regularly I'd listen to Scott, and then joined locals, and just became more and more kind of convinced that he was on the right track, And I think from then on, it was just essentially like, I think it was my first. Being an engineer, like you don't know anything about persuasion. It's just not even in the world that, I mean, if you're an engineer, the facts are the facts, and that's it. That's all you need. So the whole area of persuasion, and then I remember, because there was one instance I kind of fell into Wally mode, being a sort of, and also this is the thing, I don't like talking about race and gender and so on, but being a white male, especially in South Africa. It has its challenges.
Yeah.
And I remember his whole thing with saying, don't just fall into your limitations. Don't allow your circumstances to define who you are. And then also the whole thing of Prisoner Island. If you're on Prisoner Island, what is the strategy? And this was really transformational for me. I thought, wow, this is like, don't accept your limitations. Don't make the most of it. And also, I remember Scott saying, whenever he had an obstacle in the road, like some terrible, he had those various things with, being in the bank and being at the telephone company and all of those things, and also having the TV series, that don't try and get back to where you were. You must let it shoot you into the future, into a much better situation. And that really was transformational for me. Like I took that on. I mean, there was a whole constructive dismissal process I went through and everything, and it was really, really tough, especially during COVID. And then having that whole locals community, like it really, I mean, a couple of people have spoken about, wanting to log off from the simulation, and I was there. I mean, I was similar to Mike Burt, and he spoke about it so clearly earlier. I was in the same situation. But just taking on this whole thing of building the talent stack, do the smallest thing, be useful, just simple things, and then how to identify the hoax. It's too much on the nose. The user interface to reality, and then also, does the filter predict? Like, does your view of reality predict what's going to happen next? If so, then it's quite close to truth. You can't get to truth, but you have to be able to have your filter must predict. I think then also, I mean, so we were just asked to, give a summary of what we've learned from Scott. Then I won't talk too long. Alcohol is poison. I used to drink a lot. I don't drink anymore.
That's great.
It's incredible. I've got a family. I mean, I used to be a bachelor, driving from power station to power station, just like I'd accepted my fate. Like I was just sort of, this is my life, And I think over the years, like I've just built like a really good life.
That's great.
And it's, I'm very happy. It's very moving. Anyway, not to get emotional about it, but a couple other things that are very powerful for me. Thinking past the sale, enormously powerful. Visual persuasion. I mean, that's one of the things, like, because I've been pushing for the adoption of Starlink in South Africa, and it's just, it's enormously difficult because people here are so anti-Elon, strangely enough. But using visual persuasion, I mean, I've managed to get to pretty much the highest levels in government, and to go and speak to these people and say, listen, this is why we need this, and it seems to be. I mean, I'm not the only one. There's many of us pushing for Starlink, but I mean, it will be transformational. But the point I'm saying is that if I didn't have the tools that Scott had given me, like, I would be nowhere. Like, I would just be still driving from one power station to the other, just being Wally, just in Wally mode.
Yeah.
And yeah. So, oh yeah. The other thing I wanted to say was, I think over and above all of these things, just Scott's work ethic is just astonishing. Like the example that he's given is just, if nothing else, just seeing the Daily Show, and just like this incredible, like, it's almost like the unspoken example.
Mm-hmm.
It's beyond words. Just to see this incredible discipline has been very transformational. Anyway, thank you, Owen, and thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it sounds like a great story, and Scott's had a big impact. Nothing he's doing isn't something that is superhuman, and he has his own talent stack and you have yours, but if you put it to the best effect, I think you can have some pretty incredible results. That's what he's shown us. So thank you. All right, let's go to Andy and then Chris.
Hey, Owen. Thanks to UNSJV and Sergio for hosting. And I'm the guy that posts the rules often that we talk to Scott, not about Scott. But sorry, Scott, we've been talking about you because we love you, brother. And, so sorry for breaking the rules, Scott. Scott's observed many times before in his comments that he sees a lot of lawyers follow him. I'm a lawyer member of that less than noble profession, and a lot of us follow him. And now you think the superficial reason is that he's great at persuasion. He's he's modest and he says he's got commercial grade. That's BS. He's got near weapons grade persuasion skills and observations. But let me link to why America was because he served on a jury trial. And the sum and substance of that post is that he made sure that a guy wasn't hit with a bum rap. And having served on that jury, made him love America. Now, most of us lawyers are, fairly jaded, I like to say, on the outside. But most of us, want to fight for justice or at least a chance for justice for our clients. But if everyone's feeling emotional, just look, everyone, a deer. Look, a deer. That's my contribution, and thank you, Owen. I'm gonna.
All right, thank you, Andy.
Emotional.
Okay, let's go to Chris, and let's see, then Sophia, if we still have Sophia. Looks like we might have lost her, but let's go to Chris next.
Hi, Owen.
Go ahead, Chris.
Hi, Owen. Hey, guys. Thanks,
Hi.
Sergio. Thanks, SJV, for giving me the chance to speak. This is amazing. Never requested to speak on a space before. I've listened to a ton of spaces. This has been a great one. Truly emotional, and boy, I just one of the things that love Scott's concept on not having regret. And Akira the Don, I was listening to Akira Don's song on regret. And Scott, sorry, I'm a little nervous here. Wow. Been waiting. A lot of simultaneous sipping going on today while I've been waiting. But
You're doing
I
fine.
thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Owen. Had a lot of I struggle with regret, and I didn't want to regret um, not stepping up and pressing that request to speak button to say thank you to Scott.
Hmm.
That was the big one for me. Um, there's not been any one thing in particular that I've gleaned from Scott, but maybe a million different things, and a lot of simultaneous sipping, a lot of shows, man caves episodes, and it's just been great. I just found out this morning that Akira the Don, his inspiration came from Scott, and I found Akira the Don through Scott, and I really love that music. And I think about all these great speakers that Akira um, does music with and uses those words. And we've got Scott here right now in the present. So we can hear it live and interact with him. And
Hmm.
to me, that's just been amazing. And for that, I just want to say thank you so much. So, and my last takeaway, I guess, is the fact that there's times I'm a little bit lazy about getting into that next room and doing the work I need to do. And lately, my memory of Scott's been where he's been sitting on a gurney, um, riding in the back of an ambulance, live streaming, and that just comes to me. Um, I just think about that all the time whenever I'm feeling a little bit just lazy. I just think, well, if Scott can just get on a live stream and do his thing and show up every single day, I've got no excuse to not do the same thing. So thanks,
Hmm.
guys. I really appreciate you. I love you, Scott Adams. Take care. Oh, and
All right.
thank you for everybody. All the stories, they've been fantastic. All the speakers, thank you so much. Take care,
All
everyone.
right.
See ya.
Thanks, Chris. You did great.
Thanks.
All right.
Appreciate it. Bye.
Let's go to Approbator and then Captain.
Oh, hi. Am I on?
You are. Go ahead.
I just want to say thank you to Scott, and I love you, Scott. Young man from UK said something that's been lingering with me earlier about I'm not sure if I have the phrase right, but Scott was like his overnight Jesus, and it made me kind of reflect about when Scott got sick, and I was wondering what it would be like to have all my days without him. And I was happy because I hadn't actually listened to all of his material. I think I started in like 2019. So I was going whatever's going on today anymore. It was still just as enjoyable to listen to what he was doing. And I think that this is not just like hearing the news, but it's a practice that we all share in. And that's what a great preacher does is he takes what's happening in the world and helps you process it through through a framework that aligns with yourself and with the human spirit. And it's just so great to hear this outpouring of emotion and to be a part of this community. It's crazy that 3-4 years ago, like Scott was like all a lot of us had to hold on to. Like the world was so dark, and like here it is a short time later, and like he's been a part of just flipping the whole reality for myself, for the world. Thank you, Scott. Appreciate you giving me the mic. Thank you for hosting these great spaces. Oh, and I'll just leave it at that.
All right. Thank you. Okay, let's go to Captain and then Lucas. Captain, go ahead. All right, looks like Captain is stuck on mute. So we'll go to Lucas and then Jason.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much to the hosts for having us. We love Scott so much. And when you hear all of these beautiful things that are being said, I was just considering that this man, Scott, um, has done all of this by making doodles on a page. Whether those doodles were words or whether they were pictures, all of these beautiful things that are said are because of those doodles that were made. And um, it's obvious that it's all of these beautiful things that were inside of Scott that he brought out and shared it with all of us. That's what we're feeling, that's what we're sensing, the goodness and the beautiful things within Scott. And I think that there's still so much more. I think we're being robbed if he goes at any time in the near future. I think there's so much more that we could benefit and gain from Scott. I'm just so thankful for his life so far, and I've got this long-standing theory that the purpose of life is to love and to be loved, and according to that theory, Scott is living an amazing life, and we're just all so much richer because of it. And just thinking about that goodness inside of him and thinking about that island, I just think that goodness can still overcome the island of cancer that he's in at the moment. And I just believe in that goodness inside of him, and I'm just so thankful for him being in this world. And the name Adams has got another amazing I guess the ancestors would be very proud. So thank you, Scott. Thank you, everybody. I'll pass it on.
All right, thanks. All right, let's go to Lucas and then Jason. I'm sorry, Lucas just spoke. So let's go to Jason and then Captain.
Thank you, Owen. So I think I may owe my whole career to you, Scott. I got into self-help and politics at a young age, but both of those topics can be pretty boring, and you made them so interesting to me. I listened to your audiobooks, watched your speeches, videos, interviews, and podcasts, and even listened to the Dawn's albums featuring you. Your content made me a more successful person and helped me immerse myself completely in politics, which now I actually get to cover for my job. When you started to react to my clips, that alone was a dream come true to me. But when you told your viewers to follow me, it was one of the most generous and coolest things anyone has ever done for me. I gained so many new followers, and that's because your audience trusts you so much. It was a total game changer, and it sincerely meant the world to me. I can never repay you, and I'll always be grateful for your contribution to my life. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Jason. Yeah, I think Scott has enabled a lot of people's careers, and it sounds like you're among them. And that's been amazing to watch. That he's great at picking out smart people and talented people and bringing them to people's attention and getting them the attention they deserve. I mean, Mike Benz is another example that I think Scott has elevated, and a lot of other people like that, where he just says, "Hey, watch this guy, follow this guy," and it's made a huge difference in everyone's lives that he's touched.
Yeah, thanks, Owen. That's very kind. And yeah, something. He doesn't have to do a ton of huge. People don't give credit to people, let alone shout them out in the way he does, like such deep and personal and powerful endorsements. So it really means a lot, and it definitely speaks to his generosity.
Yeah, he is very generous. All right. Thanks, Jason. All right,
Thank you.
let's go to Captain and then Erica. Captain, you're on mute. All right, looks like he's stuck on mute. Erica, go ahead.
Hi, you guys. I hope you can hear me okay.
Mhm.
Okay, great. So I have been listening to you guys, and I was like, you know what? I have to say something as the ATTR, if you know, you know, or your
I
internet
do.
aunt, or as Mike Burt calls me, mommy. I just wanted to say to everybody who's speaking today that Scott often talks about reciprocity, and everything you're saying and how you're feeling and the lessons you've learned and the love you have for him, that is reciprocity for Scott, for everything he's done for us. And that's like really all that matters to him, is that he was useful to all of us. And I know it's scary to think, I'm good. I know it's scary to think that maybe the group will be splitting up a little bit, but it won't. It won't. And we're brainstorming ideas collectively, like what we can do to keep going on. But I just want you guys to know, especially my locals fam, that I am here for you. If you ever need something, my DMs are open. And we've had so much fun with Scott. And I'm sorry, I'm not sorry, but I won't ever give up hope. I just can't. I'm not that girl. But we have so many good memories and so much fun stuff as a family. And I was just thinking about all of them in my head, like, from like Scott wanting to throw his printer off the balcony and every freaking electrical malfunction he had and technical difficulty and the cursing and the swearing and how we're all like, look at the screen, we're telling you what to do, look at the screen, and he like wouldn't look. And like, who remembers like back in the day when that bird would set off his alarm, or like every time Scott got a text message, the chat in said, it's Greg Gutfeld, it's Greg. Scott showing us his weird and quirky flashlight collection. He happens to have like 100 flashlights, although he said he gave them up. He would DoorDash or Uber Eats his food at night in the man cave, and we'd all be like, what are you getting? And he had to stop telling us because we're all like food critics. Jose, we love you. Back to Boo, back to Snickers. I mean, the first time I think I ever saw Scott on a Periscope, I didn't really know about Periscope or Scott, and I'm scrolling through, and he's in his closet folding laundry, talking to the camera. And I'm like, who's this guy? What's he doing? And oddly enough, at some point, I'm like, oh my God, is this the Scott Adams that Greg Gutfeld talks about? Who knew? And that's how I found Scott. I never really read Dilbert. Sorry, I do now. But Scott has just transformed the way a lot of us think. And listening to you guys today, I don't know who said it in the beginning, but Scott, we are Scott's debris. For sure. I see us as like a million little pieces of like stars and debris out there with like all of this knowledge, all of us gaining different perspective about different things. And collectively, I feel like everyone's really got it. Like we really and then doing the man cave and then doing twice a day during COVID, I think saved a lot of us. And I just want you guys to know that we'll always be around. This group will stay together as a family. Scott's teachings will go on forever and ever. And I'm here if anyone needs me for anything. I love you guys. Love you, Scott.
All kinds of stays because a city hotel is
Thanks,
right
Erica.
for some.
Well said. And certainly there have been a ton of great memories. And I appreciate you reminding us of many of them. It's great. Thanks. All right, let's go to Debbie and then Sophia. Debbie, go ahead.
Hi. Yes. Hi. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I love the way you think, Scott. And it's not just because I agree with you most of the time. It's because even when I disagree with you, I get to see how you're thinking. It's not just what you think. I love how you show the process of what you're thinking. And I have learned to be a better thinker as a result. And I've learned how to ask more questions and better questions. And the thing that I love the most is how you say, maybe. And I think that you have very strong opinions. And it's one of the great things about you because you know what you think. But at the same time, you're always open to the possibility that some other information could come up, or maybe you'll find out something new that'll change your thinking a little bit or convince you of something new. And I have very strong opinions too. And you have taught me this great thing of saying maybe. And I think that it's also helped me to get along better with people that I don't always agree with, and to be able to have conversations where I don't know, would not always say it aloud, but would maybe say to myself, okay. And so I want to say with everybody else that I love listening to you, and I love you as a wonderful person. And it's unbelievable to me that you, in some part of yourself, I think, wonder how much of an impact you've made because you've asked for people to tell you. But I'm so glad you did. And I've never done anything like this before. I wanted to do it today to tell you that I very much love you and appreciate you. And you continue to impact my life. And I will continue to say maybe. Thank you.
All right, that's a great perspective. And I do think Scott's been one of the great intellects of our time. And I think that paired with his empathy and his courage to put himself out there like he has been a killer combination. I think that's part of his talent stack that can't really be matched. And it's certainly made a huge impact on a lot of people. So thank you. All right, let's go to Sophia and then Sean.
Howdy, y'all. This is Texas Gal, and I just wanted to say hi. And it has really been such a wonderful ride being with this community and this family. And thanking Scott here is just, it's been hard. I haven't been able to come on and say how much I've appreciated him and what he's impacted. Because, like Erica, all those memories start to just flood your brain, with man cave memories to memories of us in the morning frustrated with COVID, or Periscope days, having vacations with him and reliving some of his funny stories in Greece. They just come like a flood, of memories, and it can be overwhelming. So I've been on here listening to everyone from Dr. Drew to Greg, who I've met a couple times, and just share enthusiasm and love and respect for Scott and the as a friend in this community, in my business, in my personal growth. There's just so many things we could say about him. He's enchanting. I mean, he's mesmerizing. He's hypnotic. I tease a lot that my hubby is jealous. Like, you're talking to that guy again? And I'm like, I love him. He's like, how could you love somebody you've never met? And I'm like, that's why I have this soul to soul. The impact and how we'll continue on and how we'll as a community thrive, and to to just take what he's given us as a legacy. One of the beautiful quotes about Emerson. Here that are liberal and conservatives, but he just found a way of helping me communicate with them when we came together at different holidays, specifically about, look, the media has assigned this opinion. Our opinions are assigned to us. And if we kind of scrape through all of that and get to the core of what we truly believe, we have a lot more in common than we have differences. And so it's just been so just these pearls of wisdom that he's given me. But I wanted to thank him for that, for allowing our family, because of him and the way that I could communicate with people, my family and friends that were of different opinions in a more respectful way. I mean, I just cherish him. I cherish every day that we have with him. I appreciate so much of your time and energy that you give us, the dopamine that you give your beloveds, because you're our beloved. You truly are. And I'm going to end with this beautiful, beautiful poem I came across that just really reminded me of our community and the way I feel about Scott. Is here and sharing your thoughts and being transparent and authentic. And just want to say that, like Erica, we'll be here if you ever need anything. We're just a DM away, and I'm just so grateful for you, Scott. And I love you. Love that bald, sexy head of yours and that wonderful braid of yours. Love you. Love you all.
All right. Thanks, Sophia. Okay, let's go to Sean and then Tom.
Hey, I'm Sean. Thanks so much, Owen. Thanks, Scott. And thanks everybody. It's the last share, Sophia. Thank you. It's really great to hear what everyone's had to say so far. I'm a mostly recent convert, just this summer, really. Recommended by my father for Coffee with Scott Adams, and definitely, changed my life for the better. I've got the books. I've got Reframe Your Brain. Got the 2026 calendar in front of me, and I've got the humor and the reality seeping into my brain now, and it's just been magical. It's been really, really nice to have this whole community in my life, and even this spaces every week, and it feels just surreal the way that Scott has used his media and his wit through the comics to technology, to spaces, and to locals, to change the reality that I live in, and in America beyond. So it's really been amazing. I love some of the reframes so much. I'm 5 years sober, drug and alcohol free, and so the alcohol is poison reframe is just a life changer for anyone who's willing to see it and open up their minds. And so I'm hoping I can take some of the persuasion skills away with me, and that kind of work that I do with active alcoholics or addicts, and also in my school teaching work. I work with kids, try to keep that humor alive there. And so this show and just this rhetoric and this Scott Adams lifestyle has just gotten me a lot closer with my father, and that's been really nice. And my mom died from alcoholism 15 years ago. I could have used that reframe then. So very grateful for all the open, totally raw honesty everyone's been sharing here, different levels of grief or processing or whatever it's been, but also a lot of humor and hope and light, and that that poem that Sophia just read was lovely. So happy to be a part of this community, and thanks again, Owen, for hosting the whole thing. Anybody else who's doing?
Sure, glad to do it, and thank you. It's a nice sentiment, and welcome to the community. All right. Thanks. All right, let's go to Tom and then Flinda. Tom Schilling, you're on mute.
Thank you. I unmuted myself. Thank you, Owen.
Yeah.
I've been listening. It's been great. And I was kind of lurking, and I got a text from Dr. Drew. He said, "I see you're lurking, Tom. Why don't you speak up?" And I said, "Well, I'm just kind of listening. I don't know if I have anything special to say." And then I was thinking, like, okay, what would Scott say about that? He'd probably kind of upbraid me. He'd say, "Really? You got a rep to protect? Is that it? You're worried you're not going to say something brilliant in the space?" So anyway, listen, I've been listening to people say things like, it's very interesting. People say, "Oh, I was afraid he was going to block me for that," or one time he blocked me, or I was so lucky I didn't get blocked that time from Scott. And it made me think, I love coffee with Scott. I love it, right? But sometimes he's not your gentle friend, right? He is our friend. Scott is a good friend, but he's talking to a million of us. He's having coffee with a million people. So sometimes we forget. And I think it's happened to me, and I'm assuming it's happened to other people when I hear them talking about the, "Oh, Scott, I wish I was afraid of this, I was afraid of that." Sometimes we are afraid of Scott. Sometimes Scott isn't nice, right? Now, why is that? Because he's talking to a million people. So this is something that I want everyone to be reminded of. We get very close to Scott, but we never see him. I mean, I've seen him, I've met him in person, but most of us have not. And most of us we haven't been in the same space as him. So how do you have a friend that you've never seen before? Does that make sense? And then sometimes you get your feelings hurt by Scott because he says, "Anyone else comments on that, I'm going to block them." Or, "Why don't you guys shut up?" Or even harsher language he's used to the whole audience. He got fed up with us at times. And we might have got our feelings hurt. And we said, "Wait a minute. Is Scott my friend? I'm sitting here with this guy that I've never met before, and I act like maybe he's not my friend." So I'm thinking this has happened to some people. And this is what you have to remember. Scott's a great communicator. He's a great persuader. And sometimes when you are a great communicator and a great persuader, you're not nice. You've got to be not nice to people. It's a very complex thing talking to a lot of people. So just to remind you, if you've ever felt that way and you thought, "Oh, maybe Scott's not my friend," Scott is your friend, okay? Scott's your friend. And if you've ever felt upbraided by Scott, feel lucky. Thank you, Owen. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think the way I look at that is that um, when I'm interacting with Scott or on his live stream, especially the man caves and the pre-show and stuff, it's like I'm a guest in his home. And I think about it that way, and I comment to people to think about it that way because it's really true. You're a guest in his home. And so you should behave that way. You shouldn't behave or say things that would be completely inappropriate or offensive if you were saying it to somebody 3 feet away from you. And I think that's often when Scott gets upset, is when someone's trolling or someone's saying something that just is completely insensitive and inappropriate, and shows no social skills whatsoever. And I see it as a little bit of training, like, hey, that's not right. Don't do that. And I think part of it is necessary with this asymmetric relationship that you just described, because he's seeing a flood of information, and there's one of him and there's a million of us, or whatever it is. And so when a whole bunch of people are saying these really offensive things, it affects him. He's an empathetic guy. He's impacted by the information that's thrown at him, and he doesn't want to see certain things. And in certain cases, he's even shut down the live stream to say, "Okay, if you're going to keep doing that, then we're done." And I think that's his way of setting boundaries. And I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And so, I think he teaches us a lesson every once in a while, and that's okay. And I think it probably helps maintain that friendship that you're talking about. Is to say, look, here's the terms of that friendship. You gotta play ball. You gotta follow the rules, and show that you have some kind of social skills here, and you can read the room, and you can see when something's not the right thing to say. And so I totally applaud him for that, and I think it's something that maybe other people should do more of, even in their personal lives, to just have those boundaries and stick to them, and say that this is how I'm willing to interact with you, and this is how I'm not. And so I think that's perfectly fine, and probably a good thing in the long term, because I think Scott recognizes that if he didn't do that, it would devolve into some sort of toxic conversation. And so that's his way of avoiding that kind of outcome. And I think he's done a great job with it. And I think it bleeds over even into these after party spaces we have, where he's kind of trained the people who speak, he's trained the people who comment not to say these things that are toxic, because they know that if they do, they'll probably just get kicked out, and they won't be able to come back, and they'll be kind of excommunicated from the community. And we don't do that very often, and usually we let people stick around, but there are rules. There's not a lot of them, but there's a few. And so I think Scott does a great job with that. I appreciate you describing that for us.
Thanks, Owen.
All right, thanks, Tom. All right, let's go to Flinda and then Clyde.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
I can.
Thank you so much, Owen and Sergio and SJV. I don't know why this is so hard for me. I've been listening this whole time, and I feel like I'm jumping off a cliff, but I can't let this opportunity go by without letting Scott know, if he's still listening, or if there's any way to get the message to him, that he has made a profound, lasting effect on my life, like so many other people. And I could echo what so many people have said already, but I did find him through listening to Fly Lady. For people who know, they know. Apparently, they spoke together at some occasion, and I was instantly hooked. It was around 2018, 2019, and my father was dying of Alzheimer's, and I was providing end-of-life care. And then, so I was working full-time in my parents' house, and then helping the nurses. It was miserable and lonely. And thank God for the man caves. It really helped in ways I don't know how to explain, but there were occasions when Scott responded to my comments, and I don't have words for what that felt like, to be Bach. He wrote The Adventures of Jonathan Livingston Seagull, for anyone old enough to know what that is. He also wrote a little book called The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah, called Illusions. A tiny little book. Reminds me so much of Scott and Scott's messages. But I also wanted to say that I believe in miracles. I've seen them. And I did link one time to one of the posts, but recently I have a son my youngest son is a recon Marine, and he fell off a cliff and broke everything on the right side of his body. But he's now today jumping out of helicopters. His recovery was so miraculous that the Marines wrote about it last November in their Leatherneck magazine. So I absolutely will not give up hope for Scott to have an Act 3 or a miraculous recovery of some kind, because I really don't want to live in a simulation without him in it. So I know very well how to replay his words and how to listen to his books. So I'm hurting with a lot of people on this call. I don't want this to end. So thank you. And there's so many other people I could thank that are here, like Bookish Girl and Bev, but mostly Scott, if you're listening. You're like nothing else I've ever experienced in this world. Thank you. I don't think thank you's enough of a word. Thank you, Owen. I can't keep talking.
All right. Thanks, Linda. That was perfect. I appreciate it.
Loved Charles Schulz. I still do, and my children read Peanuts books that I collected as a teen, and they love it. In my college years, I fell in love with Robert Crumb, and it was a real romance, remote romance with his ability to draw such things as Keep On Truckin'. I don't know if others remember that, but of course that matched my college years. Ever since then, once Dilbert arrived, that was the cartoonist that I admired the most, and I still do. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Kai. Appreciate it. All right. Let's go to Rich and then Mark.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
It's going great.
I'm
How are
glad
you?
that I'm good, man. I didn't realize that this was still going on. I saw that you started it this morning, and I was busy doing farm stuff and animal stuff, and I felt real sad that I wasn't able to jump on and say hi. But glad to see that it's still going. Everyone's messages so far have been real sweet. It just means a lot to just be able to speak into this X space and know that Scott's listening to us, and hopefully he can feel our energy. I don't always catch the simultaneous sips, the live streams, but every single morning at 10 a.m. I make sure, whether I'm at a construction site or on the farm or wherever I'm at, I have either my coffee or my water bottle nearby at 10 a.m. and I'm sipping, knowing that Scott and the rest of the community is doing it all together. Scott's been an influence in my life since I was young, and I remember reading the Dilbert comic strips and thinking that they were hilarious, and knowing I'm never going to have a cubicle job. And I have a great career in construction. I've started a couple businesses. My wife and I, we have a farm together, and we do animal rescue stuff. And I listen to him all the time. If there's never a dull moment, I can always find an audio book to listen to. I've listened to all of his books multiple times. I want him to know, like, that we love him. I say Uncle Scott all the time, and just whenever he's not with us anymore, it'll be sad.
Yeah. What do you think has been the most useful that you've learned?
The new iPhone 17
I would say the reframing, and
By the early 90s.
possibly just being able to think differently because of him.
Any particular reframe that resonated with you?
Just anything.
1960s, American television had a very clear job. It was supposed to be safe, predictable, reassuring. No matter what was happening in the real world, TV existed to
Tony?
smooth things over, to
And
tell
then
viewers
Melanie.
that adults were in control, that
Hello,
systems worked, and that
my name's Tony. I'm on Locals as the user Teabag. I just want to thank Scott
You've been an inspiration in my life. Kid. I mean, it's the reason why I'm in technology today. Um, you know, you got me through COVID. It was dark times. I started listening to you. I heard you on Alex Jones one day on the radio, and I started listening to you after that. I'd always just read your comics. I never knew about the other stuff you did until then, and I've been a follower ever since. Every day you speak to us all like we're your friends, and it's amazing the community you've built. I'm very grateful. I, I can't imagine a world without you. You have been an inspiration to me in my life. Well, thank you very much. Uh, I guess that's all I've got to say there, and I
All right.
hope to see you someday.
Okay. Thanks, Tony. Appreciate it. All right. Let's go to Melanie and then Mark. Melanie, you're on mute. Looks like Melanie may have stepped away. Let's go to
Hi.
Mark.
Hello.
There you are.
Did you have
Okay.
me? Oh, hi
Yeah,
there.
go ahead.
Sorry, I couldn't find the mute mute button.
No problem.
Anyhow, I just wanted to thank Scott. Thank you so much for everything that you've done to make my life better. And I'm sure that everybody who's contributing today to tell you how much you mean to them feels the same way. Of course, I was following you when you were, doing Dilbert in the, in late 80s and 90s, and then when you started, and I would read your blog, and then when you started doing the periscopes, I, tuned in, and even when you were just, practicing, um, giving feedback, like, oh, we can hear you, we can't hear you. It was, I've been with you since the beginning, and I just am dreading not having coffee with Scott Adams in the morning to wake up to. You've been, you've helped me to reframe so many things that have been just very difficult, especially over the past 10 years. And thank you. That's what I mainly want to say. Thank you. You mean the world to me. Thank you.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Thanks, Melanie. All right. Let's go to Mark and then Great.
Thank you so much. I'm relieved this space is still going on. Owen, can you confirm you can hear me? This is my first time joining a space.
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Tremendous. Okay, cool. I'll try to speak as fast as I can because my heart is very full, and I might speak in the second person or addressing Scott, since this is probably my first and likely last time to send a message directly. For context, I've been listening to Periscopes since around probably late 2015. I remember putting a bet on Trump the last day of 2015, and following the lives. Since then, I've mainly been listening async to the podcast, just to the way time zone and scheduling worked. But Scott has been in my ears for thousands. I really let him into my life, and he's been a huge influence. Many more years of informing who I am and how I've grown over the last 10 years than family or friends in many cases. I want to give a special shout out to Reframe Your Brain, that book. Even if I lost the book and forgot all the reframes, just knowing that you can come up with your own reframe is an incredible gift. So much so that a year ago at work, I gave a talk. We give a talk on any topic. I gave a talk on the idea of reframes, and I shared verbatim some of the frames from Scott's book, and then a few that I'd come up to my own, sort of inspired by that context. And it's just such an empowering message to tell people, like, you're just a moist robot. You can pick your frame on reality. Here's something to get started. Alcohol poison. I can move my pinky finger, but you can come up with your own. The other book that I loved was How to Fail at Everything. I've gifted that book quite a bit. At a small level, I want to give a shout out for keeping my startup dreams alive, because I did actually put a bet on Trump in 2016, which I was just kind of really inspired by his conviction. And I know it wasn't financial advice, and hopefully he's smiling and not slapping his head to his forehead at this point. But it did actually lengthen my runway and allow me to focus on that dream for a bit longer. Nice. And so, therefore, I think it was May of last year, I remember coming out of yoga and listening to a podcast. I said I'd normally listen async, and he shared, I guess it was the day after Biden's news, that he was in not a good way. And I remember just stopping my tracks and being like so moved. I think there's some quote about a man being born twice. The second time is when his dad dies, or something. I'm paraphrasing badly. A few speakers ago, you had Texas girl Sophia, or Texas girl somebody, who said she was worried her husband would be jealous because she's like, I love this guy. For me, the version was, wow, I wonder would my father raise his eyebrows, like, why does Mark care so much about this stranger on the internet? But Scott really did live this internet dad in a big way, and it's been a very positive influence. Something funny happened today when I was listening to the podcast, and I because I listen async, I sometimes won't listen for several days, and I noticed yesterday his voice was like sounded older and less health, and today he referred to the news. So I only today read the New York Post article and realized, shit, I was in denial a bit that he would pull some miracle like he did with his voice thing, that it would somehow pull through. But as I wrapped my head around the idea that we wouldn't have regular podcasts, something happened in me in a very kind of inspiring way too, where I was like, maybe the senpai or the teacher has taught enough that, like, the time is now, Mark. Like, you need to begin to serve others, whatever format that looks like. So thanks for inspiring us, Scott. In a weird way, even though I grew up in Ireland, it's felt relatable. Scott grew up in a small town and moved to California for the weather. I did exactly that. Recently, I've been listening to him from California, from San Francisco, no less. And so this opportunity to speak directly to him is a lot better than the other thing I was considering, which is like rent a car, try to stalk him down in Pleasanton and hang out in the local Starbucks just to say thank you. Now I'm guessing he's not even leaving the house so much, so I'm extra grateful for this opportunity. But I've copied as much as I can, as much as feels genuine. It's been pretty cool because he shared a lot of stuff in the daily podcast, and I don't agree with all of it. You know, sometimes I'll read a blogger and I'll say they're so smart, I just agree. I've really enjoyed his like bravery to think out loud, and he throws out ideas just to get it going. And like another recent speaker said, that gives me permission to speak more openly and more bravely to my friends.
Future would make
Where it's
sense,
like,
and
could you
that
think about it
mattered
this way?
because
And leading with
1963
questions. And
was not a
I don't know if
calm
this is the
year.
right idea, but
Trust in a
it's a starter idea.
television wasn't meant to
I
act,
really have
an
picked up a lot
audience
of his
didn't
helpful
just scare.
communication
The premise
tips
of the
in terms
Zanti-
of, you know, I live in San Francisco where a lot of people maybe politically are very opinionated, and it can be hard to have discussions. I feel like I've learned a lot from Scott about how to bridge that gap and get some sort of a conversation going. And so, yeah, I mean, I could probably keep going on, as you can tell, but something I'll treasure in the final weeks is his relentless optimism as a policy. You know, the thing that makes everything better. Incredibly inspiring to see him maintain that tone after a breakup, after being cancelled, after being hunted, trolled, and especially in physical pain recently. I think that if he can do it through the pain that he's clearly gone through, it raises the bar for me. Joy is a duty, and optimism as a polity does make the world better. So, Owen, thank you so much for hosting this space. I was amazed it was still going on. I thought it was this morning and I'd missed it. So I re-downloaded the mobile app so I could join. And Scott, final word from me maybe is, you talked about donating your body, your recordings, your IP to science in the most generous way. And whatever technology does, I think just listening to the last few speakers here, it's cool to think that
no attempt at understanding.
technology
Instead,
aside,
Earth receives a
you will
message
live on.
that reads more like a warning
Thank you
than a
all.
request. The beings calling themselves the Zanti are not interested in cooperation. They are issuing.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I
They
appreciate
inform
it.
humanity
I
that
was
they
on
intend
mute,
to
but
send
yeah,
a ship to
I
Earth.
appreciate
Not
everything Mark
diplomats,
said,
not explorers,
and,
but
couldn't
criminals,
agree with all of
dangerous
it. I
ones.
think,
And Earth
sounds
is
like he's
expected
really
to
helped you
accept
and
them,
a lot of
contain
people,
them,
so.
and stay out of the way.
All right, let's go to Great, and then Dawn.
Good evening, gamers. Hello, everyone. I've been just touched by the amount of stories and outpouring support that's been garnered to this man who deserves it every one bit. He's worked tirelessly every single day for us, not because of what he. Basically, he's just been our guiding light in this shining darkness that's been this world, that's been trying to tell us that we've been wrong this entire time.
There
But
is no
however,
negotiation,
the
no
sharing in that
discussion.
moment on that beautiful
Compliance
day
is
where he was
assumed. That
emotional,
imbalance
overcome
matters. In
by
most
just tears of
television
joy
science
that we got the
fiction of the
hostages
era,
back,
first contact
just from
came
all
with
the other joys
curiosity,
and experiences that
optimism,
we've had
or
throughout our
at
lives
least a
together.
shared framework for
And just
communication.
listening and being
Here,
a part
power
of
is established
locals, being a part
immediately,
of
and it
just a
doesn't
10-year
belong to
journey in
humans.
Saga.
The Zanti
I've
don't
never done
explain
one of these, so
themselves.
I
They
just
don't
wanted to just
soften
get
their
on and just be
language. They
like,
don't
well,
care how the demand is
he's
received.
just
For a
been a constant in
1963
our
audience,
lives.
that idea
From reading
hit
the Sunday
close to
comics
home.
as I was a
This
boy,
was a
and
world
then
still
just
processing the
reading God's
reality that
Debris as a
decisions could be made
freshman or
far
sophomore
above
in high school,
ordinary
and
people.
just realizing that truth and justice and honesty is actually a key pillars of life that you should try to follow. And that when all of us lost friends because of supporting Trump, he was just the voice that was able to tell us that, hey, we're actually right on this one. And that our reality was just one of the best things that we could actually do. It just, we were right. And like, he proved it to us. As in just from all the things that we could be able to reframe, just to do everything like that. Like I picked up and used sort of his persuasion techniques. I knew
When the
about pickup
Zanti
artist
finally
gaming,
appeared, the
game
episode
theory, and
makes
just
a
being
very
like,
deliberate choice. They don't arrive as
it was
towering
great seeing
invaders
his
or
work flow
sleek,
through all of
intelligent
us,
beings
as
meant
in
to
we can
inspire
convince and
awe.
influence the
They're
people around
small,
us to be able to do this.
insect-like, low to the
Like,
ground,
I
and
was
the
just so
camera
overjoyed
never
when I
treats
heard
them as
Fox News
distant
was
or
like, Nova
abstract.
engineers
It
are
gets
breaking
close,
for
too
Trump in record
close.
numbers, and
That
they won't want
choice
to be
alone
interviewed
broke
on
another
camera
quiet
because
rule of
they don't want their
television.
liberal friends to
Most
know.
TV
Like,
monsters of the
I was
era
like,
were
I
framed
was one of those
carefully.
guys.
Wide shots, quick
I
cuts,
was like, yeah,
just
this is
enough
great.
distance to remind the audience that what they were
Yeah, I was
seeing
like, we
wasn't
could have
real.
got
The
Virginia.
Zanti
So
aren't
I
given
don't
that
know where this
courtesy.
journey
It's
ends,
either
but
episode
I
a
know
problem
I'm just very happy to
or
begin with
uncomfortable.
some guy being like, I think I could do something.
Move
I
in
can
ways
change and
that
help the
feel
world.
wrong for television,
So
twitchy,
just from all of us
frantic,
over here, we just
almost
want to say
desperate
thank
audience.
you and that we love you very much. My
It
wife has always been like,
crack,
oh, you're
the
listening to him again? And then she was like, oh, we're doing the sip again.
control
Hurry,
is
let's
still
get the sip
doing its
together.
job,
And
at
I was able
least
to
on
get my
too
kids to
quickly
do
for
this too
anyone
with
to
us too as
contain.
well.
A barrier
They
doesn't
know you. I always joked in chat, like, hey,
destabilize the
Scott, we're going to
entire
live with you one day.
operation. What makes this moment unsettling
just
isn't the violence,
just
it's
joke
how
around. Because he's always
ordinary
like,
it
yeah,
feels.
there's an old man
Gunfire
that, you know,
appears,
could
but
actually
it
use
isn't
help from a
triumphant.
family. I'm like,
Soldiers don't
no,
look
horse gaming
confident.
babies.
Orders
No,
are
no, I
shouted,
don't
then
think so.
continually steering
So
how thin
it's
the
been just
barrier
fun,
really
just
was between
getting to
control
just
and
be a part
chaos,
of the
and how
community and
quick the
just,
system
you know, the joy I get when
fully
he reads one of my texts
This is
too.
the
I'm
point
just
where
like,
the
this is
episode
great.
stops
Like,
being about
this is
aliens
just such a
entirely.
surreal
It
experience
becomes
that,
about what
you
happens
know,
when
someone that you care
institutions
for and
accept
admire actually, you know, kind of
responsibility.
cares.
The
And
Zanti
just
reveal
from
why the criminals
just
were
from
sent to
everything, man,
Earth
it's
in
been
the
so
first
good.
place. They weren't
And
banished because their
I felt like
society
I had to
lacked
actually get on
control.
to say
They were
something.
exiled because the
Yeah,
Zanti could not
the
bring
wait time
themselves
was
to
worth
carry
it,
out
and
executions.
just
They
everything. And
outsourced it.
the only thing I gotta
Ultimately,
say is
it was
that
the entire test was
the
hate,
the
blame,
thief on the
required
cross,
work.
he just said, Lord, I'll
Different
see you
next
soon.
time.
And just that's the end of it, where it's like you don't have to go through all this stuff and nonsense that you have to do. Just if you have a final moment, just say, Lord, I'm here. I'll see you soon. And that's it, man. That's all I gotta say on that. So just thanks for always being here, and thanks for just being a wonderful part of our lives. And to the community, just thanks for just being awesome. You guys have been great, and best $7 I've ever spent. And yeah, the man caves are awesome too. Just man, I watched the man learn how to drum. He's like, look at this. So yeah, man, it's just been great, and just the love you give is equal to the love you get, and just all the love that you've given us over the time. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, and just want to continue.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. So Scott's book, Reframe Your Brain, came out around the time that my grandmother had passed away, and it helped me overcome grief. And I had also got Win Bigly at the same time, and that helped me start reading. And I've just been reading ever since. So Scott's helped me just become a better version of myself. And, you know, last night my daughter was chanting, Dilbert, 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 until I turned on the series, and then she finally went to bed. So that's really all I got to say.
How has he made you a better man?
Oh, just the reframes of, you know, just do something, just take small steps daily, and just keep going.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Tom. so?
Thank you.
All right. Let's go to Al and then Mark. Albert, go ahead. All right, looks like he's stuck on mute. Let's go to Mark and then Hillary.
Thank you, Owen. Erica, thank you for everything you're doing. It's so moving. I've been listening since Periscope, even at 1.5 speed a lot of times. But I just want to say thank you. You know, Scott, you've freed my mind to new levels. You've helped me through some very difficult times. And I was thinking about this, and I read a book, a great book, when I lost my mother, and it's called Motherless Daughters by Hope Edelman, and I recommend it to men. And there's one part that stood out that I'd like to share, and it goes like this. I once read a proverb that said, if you lead a meaningful life, you never really die. Instead, you break into 1,000 pieces, each of which stays alive with the people whose lives you've touched along the way. I'm only fooling myself when I say my mother exists now only in the photograph on my bulletin board, or in the outline of my hand, or in the armful of memories I still hold tight. She lives on in everything I do. Her presence influenced who I was, and her absence influences who I am. Our lives are shaped as much by those who leave us as they are by those who stay. Loss is our legacy, insight is our gift, and memory is our guide. Scott, just want to say I love you, man. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Let's go to Hillary and then Carson. Hillary, go ahead. You're on mute.
Kills now matter. Someone.
Okay, you can hear me now, I guess.
Yes.
I want to share my thanks with Scott. I can't express it how many ways. Also, I want to say that he and Jordan Peterson gave me such new insights into what happens between men and women. And I want to thank him for sharing that what a man wants but cannot easily express is simply his need to be touched. And that has changed my life. So my thanks. That's all I want to say.
All right. I'm glad he's helped you. And I know the pandemic was a tough time for a lot of people, and I certainly think Scott jumped into the fray and played a role that was very important to a lot of people. I'm not sure if he even knew how much he was helping at the time, but he certainly made a huge difference to a lot of people. That's certainly been made clear today. All right. Let's go to Trev.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm a 90s kid. I grew up opening up the Sunday papers, always pulling out the comics, and Pearls Before Swine was always my favorite, but Dilbert was a close second. I just always, I couldn't wait to read them. And 2024 was it was the beginning of a hard year, which last year was probably the hardest year of my life. But long story short, I've had the luxury of catching up on just cultural events and kind of deciding what mattered to me and politically. But Scott was one of the voices that I found, and I remember realizing, oh wow, he wrote Dilbert. I had no idea, and just his voice of reason and
It's a shame so many dogs slow down as they age, when this simple eggshell ritual helped my Lucy bounce back in just weeks, and I know because I was...
Yeah, he's meant a lot to a lot of people. All right, let's go to Carson and then Zoo.
Why did they really ban the most
Okay, thank you,
effective fat
everybody.
burner in history? It wasn't
I'm
about
emotional, so I'll be as quick as I can.
Look how many times that.
When
I mention
I
our
started reading
names
Dilbert as a
like
kid,
Mrs.
much like
Merkel,
Trev, and my dad was in IT
Vladimir
in the late,
Putin and so on,
mid-'80s,
they all
into
have
the
been
90s.
young global leaders
And
of the World
I
Economic
couldn't quite
Forum.
understand him
But
until I started
what
reading
we are very
Dilbert.
proud
And
of
he was
now
mostly
is the young
Dilbert, but every
generation,
once in a while
like
he was
Prime
Dogberg.
Minister Trudeau,
So that was kind of the first frame that I
President
got in the world
Argentina,
to help
and so on.
understand my own dad. So, Scott, thank you for that, for giving me a little bit of insight in how to understand my own family. I also wanted to say during COVID, you were a point of sanity when it felt like the world was going crazy, and it felt like we were not alone, and that was really important. And again, I'm thankful for that. Um, I know that you always wanted to have an effect on people, and aside from the persuasion stuff, which you did help me cultivate, you helped reinforce with your voice that we're not alone in our opinions. We're not islands. And our job is to acknowledge that there are others like us, to have a backbone, and then work like hell to go make it happen and persuade. And so, with all that, I just want to say thank you. You meant and mean a lot from past me and current me. So, thank you, Scott.
All right, thanks, Carson. All right, we're gonna have to wrap it up soon, but I'll get the speakers that are currently on the stage. Zoo, go ahead, and then David.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just say I'm very, very grateful for Scott Adams being there day after day after day. And it was a little too easy to take him for granted. And there'll be a hole when he's gone for sure. And I'm grateful for learning about Robert Cialdini's and persuasion. And Scott's arguably made me a better father, a more patient husband, and more successful at work. And I'm thankful.
All right, that's great. I'm glad he's helped you. All right, let's go to David and then Rick.
Scott, I, as a child, young child, I started listening or reading Dilbert. I want to say thank you for emailing me back when I complimented you on a comic that I particularly enjoyed. That was my earliest lesson in the power of the written, like writing to specific people that you might get a note back, which is a message that you've echoed a bunch. I'm a dad now, and my youngest son, my oldest son, is laughing, belly laughing over and over again on your January 2nd comic about the stupid car driving to Starbucks. And I see myself in that young boy laughing. And you've been with me my whole life, so I'm going to miss you, Scott.
All right, thanks, David. I appreciate it. Let's go to Rick and then Erica.
Scott, it's a pleasure to talk to you. I want to let you know that I taught school for 30 years, retired from that, then worked as a compliance officer for a small community bank for about 13. And your strips helped me keep everything in proper perspective. I'm extremely glad to say that for my entire 43 years I was in the public workforce, public and private, I never once had a pointy-eared boss. I never once had anything even remotely approaching the office life that you described. It helped me to realize just exactly how good I had it. And that was because of your strip. It meant a lot. And then, of course, the daily podcasts, your daily broadcasts, they changed my life. They truly did. I'm going to cut this short by saying just one last thing. I'm blessed to have many men in my family whom I love. I'm very, very lucky that way. There are only two men outside of my family whom I love. You're one. And the other is our favorite president, Donald J. Trump. Godspeed. Godspeed.
All right. Thanks, Rick. Erica, go ahead.
Hi, guys. Okay, I'm a little bit more composed now. I just wanted to say, Owen, you have a bladder that rivals Cory Booker's. You're amazing. uh, this is some marathon space, let me tell you. And also, I just wanted to say, Sergio, all my locals fan people. I'm sorry, I wanted to recognize a lot of you, and again, as your internet aunt, just say calmly that please encourage people to join the Coffee with Scott Adams community on X. And it's a community page. It's at the top of my profile. And I am Zia Erica. Things that we want to do to make sure Scott's legacy lives on forever, as we know it will, but what can we do together? And I think that was all I wanted to say. So please join the community page. It's Coffee with Scott Adams. It might be CWSA community, and it's for free. You just hit join and you'll be a member. And I appreciate you guys. And Owen, whatever any of us can do to support you and Sergio and SJV and whatever you're doing, please make sure you let us know on here, because this is so valuable and it's so great to keep us together. We look forward to this on Saturday. So please let us know now, how we can help you also. Thanks, guys.
Sure. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And, I will keep doing the Saturday after parties no matter what. I will keep posting news stories every day no matter what. And keep doing my subscriber things on Sundays and posting for subscribers. So if you do want to support what I do, you're welcome to subscribe. I'd certainly welcome as many people want to join that community, and you'll get even more access to spaces and other content. So happy to have you if you want to join. Certainly not required. After parties will still be open to everybody, and I'll do everything I can to help keep the legacy alive. I don't know how much I'll be able to get on every single morning during the week, just because I have a day job, but I will when I can, and we'll try and participate in the Scott Adams School as much as possible. So I certainly want this to continue forever, and want to stay in touch with all of you. So I appreciate everyone coming, and we will do this again soon. So thanks, everyone. I'm sure Scott appreciated it. And yeah, hopefully we'll have him with us for quite some time to come. But whatever happens, we'll stay together and we'll keep going. So thanks, everyone.